Hospital and NYC Health as they learned about their free trips on Friday. American Airlines and Hyatt Hotels announced the complimentary vacations for 4,000 employees. They'll enjoy 3-night stays to help them recharge.
We worked very, very hard, tirelessly, the whole team for these 7 weeks, and it's just amazing to think we would have this vacation.
Elmhurst Hospital had to increase intensive care units by 500% during the peak of the COVID-19 crisis. Up next, still in search of a last-minute present for mom, how to grab a gift she'll love without even leaving the house. First, though, a look at some of the very special moms in our lives. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. You're watching CBS 2 News. Actor Spike Lee is paying tribute to New York City in the way he knows best.
If I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up.
The filmmaker posted this short video on Instagram titled New York, New York, fittingly using Frank Sinatra's song of the same title. It features first responders, the city's heroes, and the empty streets of the city that have become such a common sight during the pandemic. Well, we have been celebrating Mother's Day all morning, and even while you're staying at home, there are many ways to make today a day Mom won't forget. If you're still looking for a way to celebrate the mother or mother figure in your life, there's still a time to get a good gift, whether it's an online gift card to Mom's favorite store or restaurant, or admission to a virtual course. You can always craft something handmade, pamper Mom for the day, or send flowers. Many florists are open today for delivery. Of course, what matters during these tough times is a gift from the heart.
After everything that's been going on, everyone wants to show their love, show their appreciation.
And if you still want something store-bought, many stores in our area, including some Target and Best Buy locations, have curbside pickup options available. And if you're planning to make mom breakfast in bed, be sure to do the dishes. That's a biggie. Now, as we get through these uncertain times together, a reminder to keep an eye open for the good in the world. We'll have much more in our next half hour. But for now, we want to leave you with some memorable moments from this past week.
It's been heartwarming for us. Our staff is coming back, and we are feeding nurses and doctors.
It's delicious. Thank you.
The beginning was just how do we help our restaurants survive and how do we help healthcare workers on the front lines? And now it's grown into something so much more.
If I could do something right now for a problem that's so acute, I should certainly be doing that over sitting in class. That's something I can go back to later, and I think that everyone can use some comfort right now.
This is Quarantine.
We try to make the videos really fun. We try to make them funny.
If we could harness all these people, and even if they gave, $2, $3, $5, whatever the dollar amount is, we could really do some good.
We were blown away with the participation and support, which was great to see.
My message to my workers is you guys are heroes. We are saving lives because we are getting people to where they got to go.
I give them my hand and I just sit with them. There's no words. There's no words you can say to make them feel better. Yeah. Just that they have someone with them, that they're not so alone.
She's our hero. She comes home, tells me stories. She breaks down in tears. And she's just such a good nurse. I'm so proud of her.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center, this is CBS 2 News This Morning.
Good morning. We are coming up on 7:30 on this Sunday, May 10th. Happy Mother's Day. I'm Cindy Hsu. We'll have a check on the weather in just a moment. First of the latest headlines in the coronavirus pandemic. 3 children have now died from a mysterious illness believed to be linked to coronavirus. That illness is now being referred to as multisystem inflammatory syndrome and causes swollen blood vessels and heart problems. Governor Cuomo says the state is working with the CDC to investigate the illness that has sickened 73 children in New York and dozens of others nationwide. New York will soon open 24 temporary coronavirus testing sites at churches in minority communities. Those sites will begin testing later this week. And beginning this weekend, the NYPD will limit the number of people allowed at Domino Park in Williamsburg, as well as at Piers 45 and 46 at Hudson River Park in an effort to enforce social distancing. We'll have much more on the pandemic in just a moment. First, though, a check on your forecast. John Elliott joins us live from his backyard in Essex County, New Jersey. You look all bundled up, John, but it's going to be a nice one today.
It is going to be a nice one. And Cindy, you get to know, Channel 2, we get to know so much more about each other. I'm finding out that my photographer, Al, is running 4 miles a day, 6 days a week. He starts and ends that run with sit-ups, push-ups, and pull-ups. I'm like so out of shape. Coming up, we're gonna talk about a virtual run to raise money for our house, but let's talk about your house right now with some numbers around the area. It is chilly, it's 40 in the city right now. I'm at about 37 out here, honestly. I'm just enough west and a little higher than the city, so we've got the mid upper 30s out west. So numbers compared to yesterday, though, we're working in the right direction. 2, 3, 4, almost 10 degrees warmer. Skies are bright, radar and satellite proves that. Snow as well to the north. We are going to see numbers recover today, but it's still breezy and will feel like the 50s. How about rain and how about some real nice weather? We've got your full 7-day forecast coming up apparently after calisthenics with Al. Right now, though, we'll send things back to Cindy.
I just want you to ask something for the next time you're on in a few minutes. Ask Al how to get motivated, because so many of us, including myself, are becoming serious couch potatoes. So you ask him and then we'll come back and ask you a little later, okay? We need that.
Got it.
All right, John, thank you. Well, Connecticut gearing up for a phased reopening, but what will that mean for efforts to coordinate reopening plans with New York and New Jersey? CBS 2's Tara Jakeway joins us live from Times Square with more. Tara?
Good morning, Cindy. Well, that buzz about our neighbors to the north opening up their businesses very soon are giving questions to New Yorkers. Questions like, what about us?
We follow the guideline.
Vito Durario owns Zaza Italian Gastrobar on Broad Street in Stamford, Connecticut. He's scrambling to get his crew ready for customers who may once again be dining here on the property as early as May 20th.
So it's going to be a little bit tricky.
Barring an unexpected jump in coronavirus cases, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont said he will greenlight 4 sectors: restaurants, personal services including salons, retail, and offices. For Connecticut restaurants, it means 50% capacity with outdoor dining only and tables set 6 feet apart. Menus will have to be digital or on chalkboards and workers in masks and gloves.
We have to do what we have to do to survive.
Different Northeast states reopening in different ways could include New Jersey, with beaches open by Memorial Day. We asked New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, is this consistent with his approach for it to be done regionally?
You have a cooperative regional approach. Does that change at all if Connecticut on the 20th has restaurants open so that Stamford is open but White Plains is not? And if in New Jersey you got some of the beaches open?
It's not my decision, but their actions make sense to me. And we will coordinate with that, and we talk through everything.
Do you tell them you might get a flood of New Yorkers?
We can't align every action, but we're aware of it and we're monitoring it.
It does concern me that tri-state area is opening, but not New York City.
Cuomo acknowledges that New Yorkers may have to travel far to get haircuts or dine in restaurants.
Be ready to adjust, be ready to move.
And you might just see some more moving and shaking in this now very quiet Times Square come May 15th, because that New York pause order is still set to expire on Friday. But Governor Cuomo is reserving the right to extend that order after he reviews the metrics come the 15th. Live in Times Square, Tara Jakeway, CBS 2 News.
Tara, thank you. The city is limiting capacity at some parks this weekend to help enforce social distancing rules. Police officers could be seen at entrances to Hudson River Park yesterday. They're doing the same thing at Domino Park in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Officers will patrol the parks each day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They'll also hand out masks to people who don't have face coverings.
It was much warmer than today, and so there was really a lot of people. All the piers were crowded, a little bit too much, I think. In fact, we heard from Mayor de Blasio this week. He was probably not really happy with what he saw. Today is completely different. I think that the temperature is helping to keep people at home and more social distancing.
Mayor de Blasio says the decision to limit capacity came after an influx of people seemed to overwhelm some parks last weekend. Federal regulators have approved a new coronavirus antigen test that delivers fast results. The White House says it could be key to reopening the country. The Food and Drug Administration announced emergency authorization of the test yesterday. The agency says the test can rapidly detect fragments of virus proteins in samples collected from nasal swabs. The company that developed the test says it can provide results in 15 minutes. The nation's top infectious disease doctor is now in what he calls a modified quarantine. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he had a low-risk encounter with a White House staffer who tested positive for COVID-19. Fauci is a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. He says he'll work from home and wear a mask for 14 days. Dr. Fauci says he'll get tested for the virus each day. So far, his test results have been negative. Fans are mourning the loss of rock and roll legend Little Richard. The trailblazing rock star born Richard Penniman died yesterday in Tennessee after a battle with bone cancer. He was known for his sky-high pompadour and joyful, over-the-top performances. His music was a mix of boogie, gospel, and blues, and everyone from Elton John to Prince counted him as a defining influence. Little Richard was 87 years old. It was an early Mother's Day surprise for a Long Island woman. The mother and her daughter were on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic as nurses before they both contracted the disease. Yesterday, Katie Naranjo organized a car caravan with staff from Long Island Jewish Valley Stream Hospital. The group wanted to show support for recovering nurse case manager and Katie's mom, Luz Naranjo, who was on a ventilator for 10 days after falling ill.
I was really touched. They went all the way, out of their way, to just welcome me back, because I'm given a second life. Could replace it. I didn't see them for a month while I was at the hospital and rehab, and that was very painful. And now that I'm with them, nothing could replace that.
Katie and Luz both contracted coronavirus as Long Island Jewish Valley Stream was dealing with a surge of patients. So glad they're back together. Well, coming up, it is Asian American Heritage Month, and despite the pandemic, a celebration of heritage is in full swing around the city. We'll show you how. First, though, on this Mother's Day, we are celebrating moms, grandmas, wives, aunts, sisters, daughters, and friends. And here are some of the world's greatest moms from our viewers and some of our CBS 2 team. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. fire spreads to at least 6 multi-story homes in Paterson, New Jersey. It started after 10 o'clock last night on Beach Street. More than 100 firefighters from several towns worked to get the flames under control overnight. No one was hurt, and right now it's unclear what caused the fire. Investigators in Georgia are reviewing new video from the neighborhood where an unarmed black man was shot to death while jogging in February. The incident has sparked outrage and drawn national attention to Georgia and its justice system. CBS 2's Omar Villafranca has more.
This video, obtained by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation from a camera about a block away from where he was shot, shows a man in a white shirt and shorts going into and around a home under construction. The timestamp shows it happened within minutes of a 911 call reporting a burglary. 10 weeks after an armed father-son duo chased down a jogging Ahmaud Arbery and shot him to death.
I ran for Ahmaud.
People have been running for Ahmaud on what would have been his 26th birthday.
Got a white t-shirt on. That was the colour t-shirt you wore.
It's our freedom to be able to go out and run. We shouldn't be hunted down or anything like that.
Travis and Gregory McMichael were arrested Thursday and denied bail on Friday, charged in the February 23rd confrontation. This cell phone video recorded the moment Arbery was cornered by the men and shot twice by Travis while jogging near his mother's house in Brunswick, Georgia.
911 was to address the emergency.
In the McMichaels' 911 call that day, they told the operator they were chasing a burglary suspect. On the eve of Mother's Day, Arbery's own mom looked on as people launched these balloons in a hometown tribute, while Travis McMichael is behind bars facing felony murder and aggravated assault charges, and his father Gregory is charged with being a party to felony murder and aggravated assault. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dallas.
May is Asian American Heritage Month, and although the coronavirus has gotten in the way of plans to celebrate in person, the Asia Society is offering dozens of virtual events instead. CBS News' Charlie Cooper takes a closer look.
Arts and culture, business, and education are the main pillars the Asia Society look to highlight during Asian American Heritage Month as they celebrate the achievements of Asians and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Sanjeev Sirchan is the executive director.
It's also a moment to pay tribute to the generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who have enriched America's history and are instrumental in its future success.
There are more than 20 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who call America home. They're the fastest growing ethnic group in the United States.
We are part of the social fabric, and we are changing the course of the U.S.'s history.
Sirchan says this year, highlighting their heritage is especially important in combating increased violence toward Asians who have received backlash amid the coronavirus pandemic.
This is why Asian Society has done all these programs about how pandemics and viruses are not specific to any race or minority groups.
In a 4-week-long event lineup, the Asia Society will digitally showcase art and host live events and conversations with Asian American leaders. They'll also offer a live cook-along, a virtual book club, and story time.
For those who are Asian American, why should they care about this and about knowing more about the issues that impact you guys?
The trials and tribulations that each different ethnic groups have gone through. I think there are a lot of commonalities. You can relate to each other, I think, and learn from those in your past experiences.
It's about promoting cultural understanding, social justice, and inclusion, Sirchan says, and finding our common humanity. In Harlem, Charlie Cooper, CBS 2 News.
Well, time now is 7:44. It is the middle of May, but yesterday most of us saw record-breaking cold and even some snow. So when is spring coming back? John Elliott's live in his backyard in Essex County, New Jersey, with a check on the forecast. Hi, John. Live in his backyard in
You know, it's interesting, Cindy, you talk about when is spring coming back. It's been like a start and stop.
Yeah.
March was mild, and we get a great day here, and then it snowed yesterday, so it tied the record for latest snow of the season, and multiple temperature records set over the last 2 days as well. We're going to turn things around a bit today. You can see with my fiery dome here. The sun is coming up, and we've got some pretty skies here and in the city. City looks very nice this morning. It's just a little on the cool side. Bright skies and 40 degrees right now. It's a wind out of the southwest, so that's why we're going to see a nice recovery as far as the numbers go. It is going to be definitely much better today. And we are going to see less wind. Still breezy, but not as cold. Showers Monday to start the week, and then it's warm late in the week. But it's interesting, we have another shower chance that's coming in Thursday into Friday. So that's when we're going to see the real warm numbers. But again, you're going to be dealing with a little bit of shower activity as well. Let's show you where the showers are right now. And they aren't. We're dry. We've got some snow well to the north, but that's about it. Expand the view for you on to, and you see that system. It's a pretty organized low pushing into parts of the western lake, so we'll time it out for you right now. Futurecast, we timestamp it on the top of the screen, and you can see your Mother's Day is fine. It's breezy, it's chilly, but it's better than it was yesterday. Mostly sunny for most of the area. Overnight tonight, okay, it's tomorrow morning. Ooh, look at that. Middlesex, Monmouth, Ocean 2, you've got a shower to start the day. That wraps up, pushes through, and then we do see some wraparound showers in the afternoon, so you could even see maybe a rainbow for your Monday afternoon. Then Tuesday, again, that wind is going to shift, so it's a lot cooler, and we're dry Tuesday, Wednesday before the end of the week. Believe it or not, we still need the rain. Deficit of over 3 inches since the beginning of the year. Your day today, breezy but better with a high of 62, feeling like the 50s. Wet to start the work week, and then Tuesday into Wednesday, it's dry. Finally warmer Thursday into Friday. So here's the deal with rock star athlete Al, our photographer. So Cindy, he wanted me to tell you that the reason he's so committed to running and to doing it every day is because his gym is closed, just like everybody's gym is closed. But let's think about this. Running races for charity is win-win. You get in shape, and charities like Our House make some valuable resources, raise some funds for what they need to do. But again, as we all know, things have definitely changed at the starting line.
21 years ago, we started having our first race in Summit, and it was very successful, so we had it every year since and raised quite a bit of money. This year, of course, we're going virtual. Every day is going to be an interaction. We're hosting it for a week, so it'll kick off on May 16th at 10 a.m. It will begin with a serenade from DJ John.
Hey, that's me, DJ John West, Coming up, we got a big race going on, and I hope you will like it and have fun with us.
He's putting together quite a mix for us to get our runners all psyched, and they'll be running anywhere. Wherever they live, wherever they choose to run, the 2 or 4 miler. Sign up.
Get the app.
Yes.
And you can do this anywhere.
Anywhere, yes. And so many of the families have reached out because they haven't seen their children since March 16th. How difficult is that? So we've invited families to come join the virtual run, so they won't be able to see their child in person, but virtually.
So it's great to do. It's a whole week-long event, and it's a way to kind of work around. They're trying to raise $175,000. Again, everybody's hurting, so if you can help out Our House, Our Run. I love DJ John. They're going to have a lot of fun, and maybe that can encourage you, Cindy, to get back in shape virtually as well as in the real world, too. But thanks to all our friends at Our House for having us stop by for a visit this week. Back to you.
Well, Don, if anyone can get me off the couch, it is DJ John. I love his enthusiasm.
Yeah, he's great.
All right, up next, a simple way to turn any night at home into a special occasion, a step-by-step guide to crafting a festive mocktail. First, though, on this Mother's Day, a look at some of the very special moms in our lives. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. Welcome back to CBS 2 News Sunday Morning. It is 7:52. Staying home as you're feeling tired. A tropical getaway may only be as far as your kitchen. CBS 2's Elle McLogan explains.
Stuck at home, there might be times you feel like having a drink. Something special, something that feels a little festive, but not necessarily alcoholic. For ideas, I reached out to a friend of mine who knows his beverages. His name is Rico, and he's a longtime bartender and global brand ambassador for Absolute Vodka. I called him at his apartment in Stockholm.
Today, we're going to make a non-alcoholic cocktail called the Alligatorade.
If someone's watching this and doesn't know when they would want a mocktail.
Well, the best time to enjoy any form of mixed drink is just a special occasion.
Under isolation, any night can be a special occasion if you try hard enough.
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing with cocktails is it's a taste experience. Mocktails can be just as much of an experience as a cocktail. Should we just jump straight into it?
Let's see it.
4 very simple ingredients. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. We're going to take our little cocktail shaker and we're going to add some cubed or fresh diced pineapple. I'm just using an ice cream scoop to smash this up. Fully pulverized. I'm going to add like 1 part lemon juice, 4 parts coconut water, and then we're going to just add a little bit of spice to it. So we're going to add some aromatic bitters. Just a little dash of bitters. Any bitters of your choice. If you can't find the bitters, don't worry about it. It's just a nice little spicy flavor, but it's fine without. If you make this drink for your friends, don't use your hands for the ice. But I'm making it for myself, so my dirty hands are fine. Just stick the ice in there. Give that a real good shake.
If someone at home doesn't have shakers, is this possible to do in something else, like a jar?
Indeed. What I usually use, when it's not filled with flour, I use a Kilner jar.
Oh, nice.
If you shake it properly, I've even made cocktails in Tupperware. As long as you've really got something that you can like stick together and shake, I'm fine with it. We're going to take our glass, we're going to fill this with ice, because there's a lot of pineapple in here and a lot of pineapple fibers. You don't want to get them stuck in your teeth. I have a huge gap in the middle of my teeth. You don't want to get any fibers trapped in there. So we're going to fine strain it. And if you want to make it look pretty, stick a couple of pineapple leaves in there. And there you go. The Alligatorade. No straws. Never use a straw. It's not good for the seahorses. Refreshing.
You got a little spot there on your mustache.
Okay, I had to look up what bitters are. So just so you know, traditionally an alcoholic preparation flavored with botanical matter so that the end result is characterized by a bitter, sour, or bittersweet flavor. I had to look that up. All right, for much more about mocktails, find the extended video plus the full recipe on our website at cbsnewyork.com. Well, much more still ahead, including businesses in our area that could be back open sooner than you think. We'll be right back. First, though, we're continuing to celebrate some of our very favorite mothers.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center, this is CBS 2 News This Morning.
Good morning. We are coming up on 8 o'clock on this Sunday, May 10th. And happy Mother's Day. I'm Cindy Hsu. We're going to have a check on the weather in just a moment. First, though, the latest headlines in the coronavirus pandemic. 3 children have now died from a mysterious illness believed to be linked to coronavirus. That illness is now being referred to as multisystem inflammatory syndrome and causes swollen blood vessels and heart problems. Governor Cuomo says the state is working with the CDC to investigate the illness that has sickened 73 children in New York and dozens of others nationwide. New York will soon open 24 temporary coronavirus testing sites at churches and minority communities. Those sites will begin testing later this week. And beginning this weekend, the NYPD will limit the number of people allowed at Domino Park in Williamsburg, as well as Piers 45 and 46 at Hudson River Park in an effort to enforce social distancing. We'll have much more on the pandemic in just a moment. First, though, a check on your forecast with John Elliott, who's in his backyard in Essex County, New Jersey, with the latest. Hi, John.
Uh-oh, look at Cindy. The flame has gone out. But don't you despair. We are going to fix that. So thankfully, I've got my nice cozy warm socks on and wearing purple for World Lupus Day. Again, so many great resources online. Folks battling lupus. This has been a very challenging time. We have got a better day for all of us to work through today. Chilly out there right now. Numbers still struggling. We have cracked 40 degrees some of the locations. In fact, 41 now up even into White Plains and Danbury. Look at there, though. The island is seeing that nice bounce back. You've got 45. Nice and quiet right now. We are going to see a chance of rain to start the work week, but your day today is A-OK. Still a little on the cool side. So much better than yesterday. With the wind, it'll feel like the 50s with air temperatures right around 62. Coming up, how a juggler has turned TikTok around and found success online, but he couldn't do it by himself. It's a real cool story about a dad and a daughter. Right now, though, we're going to send things right back to Cindy.
I look forward to that. But also, John, I want to know what you and Elizabeth are doing for your wonderful wife, Mary Ellen, today for Mother's Day. But we will get that when we come back, all right?
Okay.
All right. It is 8 o'clock now. Connecticut gearing up for a phase reopening. But what will that mean for efforts to coordinate reopening plans with New York and New Jersey? CBS 2's Tara Jakeway joins us live from Times Square with more. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning, Cindy. That news of our neighbors to the north possibly opening businesses soon echoing throughout a quiet Times Square, leaving one question on New Yorkers' minds. What about us?
We follow the guideline.
Vito Durario owns Zaza Italian Gastrobar on Broad Street in Stamford, Connecticut. He's scrambling to get his crew ready for customers who may once again be dining here on the property as early as May 20th.
So it's going to be a little bit tricky.
Barring an unexpected jump in coronavirus cases, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont said he will greenlight 4 sectors: restaurants, personal services including salons, retail, and offices. For Connecticut restaurants, it means 50% capacity with outdoor dining only and tables set 6 feet apart. Menus will have to be digital or on chalkboards and workers in masks and gloves.
We have to do what we have to do to survive.
Different Northeast states reopening in different ways could include New Jersey, with beaches open by Memorial Day. We asked New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, is this consistent with his approach for it to be done regionally?
You have a cooperative regional approach. Does that change at all if Connecticut on the 20th has restaurants open so that Stamford is open but White Plains is not? And if in New Jersey you got some of the beaches open?
It's not my decision, but their actions make sense to me. And we will coordinate with that, and we talk through everything.
Do you tell them you might get a flood of New Yorkers?
We can't align every action, but we're aware of it and we're monitoring it.
It does concern me that tri-state area is opening, not New York City.
Cuomo acknowledges that New Yorkers may have to travel far to get haircuts or dine in restaurants.
Be ready to adjust, be ready to move.
And there might be some more moving and shaking here on Friday in this now deserted Times Square. That's because the New York on pause is still set to expire on Friday the 15th. But Cindy, the governor reserves the right to change that once we get to that date and he assesses the metrics. Live in Times Square, Tara Jakeway, CBS 2 News.
Tara, thank you. The city is limiting capacity at some parks this weekend to help enforce social distancing rules. Police officers could be seen at entrances to Hudson River Park yesterday. They're doing the same thing at Domino Park in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Officers will patrol the parks each day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They'll also hand out masks to people who don't have face coverings.
It was much warmer than today, and so there was really a lot of people. All the piers were crowded. A little bit too much, I think. In fact, we heard from Mayor de Blasio this week. He was probably not really happy with what he saw. Today is completely different. I think that the temperature is helping to keep people at home and more social distancing.
Mayor de Blasio says the decision to limit capacity came after an influx of people seemed to overwhelm some parks last weekend. Federal regulators have approved a new coronavirus antigen test that delivers fast results. The White House says it could be key to reopening the country. The Food and Drug Administration announced emergency authorization of the test yesterday. The agency says the test can rapidly detect fragments of virus proteins in samples collected from nasal swabs. The company that developed the test says it can provide results in 15 minutes. Well, the nation's top infectious disease doctor is now in what he calls a modified quarantine. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he had a low-risk encounter with a White House staffer who tested positive for COVID-19. Fauci is a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. He says he'll work from home and wear a mask for 14 days. Dr. Fauci says he'll get tested for the virus each day. So far, his test results have been negative. Fans are mourning the loss of rock and roll legend Little Richard. The trailblazing rock star born Richard Penniman died yesterday in Tennessee after a battle with bone cancer. He was known for his sky-high pompadour and joyful, over-the-top performances. His music was a mix of boogie, gospel, and blues, and everyone from Elton John to Prince counted him as a defining influence. Little Richard was 87 years old. It was an early Mother's Day surprise for a Long Island woman. The mother and her daughter were on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic as nurses before they both contracted the disease. Yesterday, Katie Naranjo organized a car caravan with staff from Long Island Jewish Valley Stream Hospital. The group wanted to show support for recovering nurse case manager and Katie's mom, Luz Naranjo, who was on a ventilator for 10 days after falling ill.
I was really touched. They went all the way, out of their way, to just welcome me back, because I'm given a second life. Could replace it. I didn't see them for a month while I was at the hospital and rehab, and that was very painful. And now that I'm with them, nothing could replace that.
Katie and Luz both contracted coronavirus as Long Island Jewish Valley Stream was dealing with a surge of patients. Coming up, a sweet surprise for healthcare heroes at the epicenter of the pandemic. See the moment where they received a very special gift. First, though, on this Mother's Day, we are celebrating moms, grandmas, wives, aunts, sisters, daughters, and friends. Here are some of the world's greatest moms from our viewers and some of our CBS 2 team. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. A fire spreads to at least 6 multi-story homes in Paterson, New Jersey. It started after 10 o'clock last night on Beach Street. More than 100 firefighters from several towns worked to get the flames under control overnight. No one was hurt, and right now it's unclear what caused the fire. Investigators in Georgia are reviewing new video from the neighborhood where an unarmed black man was shot to death while jogging in February. The incident has sparked outrage and drawn national attention to Georgia and its justice system. CBS 2's Omar Villafranca has more.
This video, obtained by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation from a camera about a block away from where he was shot, shows a man in a white shirt and shorts going into and around a home under construction. The timestamp shows it happened within minutes of a 911 call reporting a burglary. 10 weeks after an armed father-son duo chased down a jogging Ahmaud Arbery and shot him to death,
I ran for Ahmaud.
People have been running for Ahmaud on what would have been his 26th birthday.
Put a white t-shirt on, because that was the color t-shirt he wore.
It's our freedom to be able to go out and run. We shouldn't be hunted down or anything like that.
Travis and Gregory McMichael were arrested Thursday and denied bail on Friday, charged in the February 23rd confrontation. This cell phone video recorded the moment Arbery was cornered by the men and shot twice by Travis while jogging near his mother's house in Brunswick, Georgia.
911 was the address emergency.
In the McMichaels' 911 call that day, they told the operator they were chasing a burglary suspect. On the eve of Mother's Day, Arbery's own mom looked on as people launched these balloons in a hometown tribute, while Travis McMichael is behind bars facing felony murder and aggravated assault charges, and his father Gregory is charged with being a party to felony murder and aggravated assault. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dallas.
A Long Island community has come up with a creative way to pass the time and to raise money during the pandemic. They're playing virtual bingo. And this week, a big Hollywood star from Syosset joined in on the action. CBS 2's Christina Fan tells us about Bingo for a Cause.
G52. It's not every night Academy Award winner Natalie Portman graces your Zoom hangout. It's also not every night you get to hang out virtually with all your friends in town, raising money to fight COVID-19 by playing bingo.
And I think people like supporting their community. They like the community aspect. Right. They like seeing each other.
The idea came about from this group of longtime friends who live in Syosset, New York. They were bored themselves, looking for a way to pass time, and decided to invite the whole community to play along while supporting local hospitals.
It's nice to be able to do this and feel like we're putting our energy and efforts behind helping.
The first week, about 140 families joined. By this Sunday, the number was up to 360. Each week, they try to up the excitement, from delivering birthday shout-outs to inviting celebrity guests with ties to home. Last week, it was NBA star Sue Bird. N36. This week, it was Natalie Portman.
We were all thrilled to keep it local and have local celebrities, and it really made it, amazing.
The group charges $10 for each bingo card. The winner gets a gift card to a local business. All other proceeds are donated to COVID-19 relief charities. So far, they've raised $33,000, but the money is only part of the reward.
We take for granted sometimes running into somebody at the supermarket or standing next to somebody on the ball field. And now you see all these faces, and it really makes it that much more special.
Whether or not they get to shout, bingo, bingo, they still walk away with their hearts full. In Syosset, Long Island, Christina Fan, CBS 2 News.
So where was there? That's amazing. Nearly 400 people taking part. It is 8:14. John Elliott live in his backyard in Essex County, New Jersey, with a check on the forecast. Good morning, John.
Today's weather is relatively B9. That's the only bingo joke I know. See, I got that. B9. All right. Yeah. So here's the deal. We've got a chilly start to the day, but it is going to be such a nicer afternoon with no snow squalls. In the city right now, it looks like this. You've got bright skies. You are going to see mostly sunny skies all day long, which is a real blessing. Numbers around the area, well, I'll tell you what, starting cool, but we're going to warm things up. 41 right now with that west-southwest wind. That's the agent of change. That's going to warm us up. Numbers you can see right now hanging on to the 30s, well north and west, but more observations coming in from around the area already in the mid-40s. That's great. Jersey Shore out on the island as well. Numbers definitely trending up. 5 to 10 degrees warmer than we were yesterday. So yeah, we're working in the right direction. It is still going to be below normal. The normal high this time of the year is 69. We're going to go for 62. And with the breeze, it still feels like the upper 50s, but that's a vast improvement over yesterday. Your sun sets after 8 o'clock. Isn't that nice? So a milder finish for Mother's Day. Showers return tomorrow through midday at least. And then the week is cool again with temperatures back below normal. We're back in the 70s by Friday. And what a contrast. You know, yesterday it felt like a winter day. 21 degrees below normal with those snow showers. Today, so much better. A nice rebound for Mom. You're looking at 62. It's still below normal, but it looks and feels so much better. Basically, we're 3 weeks behind as far as the temperatures go. As far as the radar and satellite, nice and quiet. Bright snow as well to the north. We are going to leave the chance for a shower in the forecast probably after midnight into Monday. Monday starts wet, and then behind that, you're going to see the cooler temperatures for Tuesday. That's the coolest of the week, and then we're warm by week's end, but don't forget Thursday into Friday. You are going to be dealing with the chance of showers. Sorry about that. Michael Rayner is my best friend since 3rd grade. He is a professional juggler. Of course, during the pandemic, he has not been able to perform, so he thought he'd try TikTok, maybe work his skills and expand his brand. Within 6 weeks, he had 1.7 million likes. And he owes it all to his 15-year-old daughter, Mabel.
She's the guru. She's the mastermind behind the TikTok sensation. She explained to me what I do wrong and what I do right.
I just made his account, pretty much. Told him how the app works.
Pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew, pew. Hold up. Wait a minute. It's time to burn it down.
It's just a bit weird for me because I've been on the app just having fun, and he's just like real committed to it now.
Well, the thing is now some social media agents have actually been selling my clips to places because we obviously we all are not working right now. We're 120 shows went up in smoke, just vanished, canceled. So I've been selling clips to like weird internet shows and different people, and that's because I'm able.
Is there hope for old dads on TikTok?
I'll say yes to that because I don't know. I feel like anyone can be on TikTok, and as long as they're just like a likable person, it's pretty like easy to get a nice following.
Donuts. It's the age of AARP. That's what I'm saying.
Yay, we're an AARP. Yeah, let's hear it for the old guys who have no idea what we're doing. So again, he's trying to build his brand. He's working his skill. I think the handle is Broken Juggler. If you're looking for it, it's just these fun clips, but he owes it to his daughter. They were doing stuff together, but then he now is doing a lot of stuff on his own. But thank goodness we have kids who can help us use technology during these times to kind of stay in the mix and keep making magic. Pretty cool, right, Cindy?
That was great. Nobody here, I think, is surprised that your best friend from 3rd grade is a professional juggler.
Bingo. I got to tell you, and he's worked all over the world. He has not taught me how to juggle, but oh, man, that was a bad idea. But yeah, and it's just another example of using technology during these changing times. I try not to burn the props. Back to you.
All right, John, thank you so much. Well, well-deserved surprise for staff members at Elmhurst Hospital in Queens who have sacrificed so much to fight the coronavirus pandemic.
What could be better than a free vacation?
Those are just a few of the workers at Elmhurst Hospital and NYC Health as they learned about their free trips Friday. American Airlines and Hyatt Hotels announced the complimentary vacations for 4,000 employees. They'll enjoy 3-night stays to help them recharge.
We worked very, very hard, tirelessly, the whole team, for these 7 weeks, and it's just amazing to think we would have this vacation.
Elmhurst Hospital had to increase intensive care units by 500% during the peak of the COVID-19 crisis. Up next, still in search of a last-minute present for mom, how to grab a gift she'll love without even leaving the house. First, though, a look at some very special moms in our lives. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. Been celebrating Mother's Day all morning, and even while you're staying at home, there are many ways to make today a day mom won't forget. If you're still looking for a way to celebrate the mother or mother figure in your life, there's still time to get a good gift, whether it's an online gift card to mom's favorite store or restaurant, or admission to a virtual course. You can always craft something handmade, pamper mom for the day, or send flowers. Many florists are open today for delivery. Of course, what matters during these tough times is a gift from the heart.
After everything that's been going on, everyone wants to show their love, show their appreciation.
If you still want something store-bought, many stores in our area, including some Target and Best Buy locations, have curbside pickup options available. And if you're planning to make mom breakfast in bed, be sure to do the dishes. As we get through these uncertain times together, a reminder to keep an eye open for the good in the world. We'll have much more in our next half hour. But for now, we want to leave you with some memorable moments from this past week.
It's been heartwarming for us. Our staff is coming back, and we are feeding nurses and doctors.
It's delicious. Thank you. The beginning was just how do we help our restaurants survive and how do we help healthcare workers on the front lines, and now it's grown into something so much more.
If I could do something right now for a problem that's so acute, I should certainly be doing that over sitting in class. That's something I can go back to later, and I think that everyone can use some comfort right now.
This is Quarantine.
We try to make the videos really fun. We try to make them funny.
If we could harness all these people, and even if they gave, $2, $3, $5, whatever the dollar amount is, we could really do some good.
We were blown away with the participation and support, which was great to see.
My message to my workers is you guys are heroes. We are saving lives because we are getting people to where they got to go.
I give them my hand and I just sit with them. There's no words. There's no words you can say to make them feel better. Yeah. Just that they have someone with them, that they're not so alone.
She's our hero. She comes home, tells me stories. She breaks down in tears. And she's just such a good nurse. I'm so proud of her.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center, this is CBS 2 News This Morning.
Good morning. Coming up on 8:30 on this Sunday, May 10th. Happy Mother's Day. I'm Cindy Hsu. We'll have a check on the weather in just a moment. First, though, the latest headlines in the coronavirus pandemic. 3 children have now died from a mysterious illness believed to be linked to coronavirus. That illness is now being referred to as multisystem inflammatory syndrome and causes swollen blood vessels and heart problems. Governor Cuomo says the state is working with the CDC to investigate the illness that has sickened 73 children in New York and dozens of others nationwide. New York will soon open 24 temporary coronavirus testing sites at churches and minority communities. Those sites will begin testing later this week. And beginning this weekend, the NYPD will limit the number of people allowed at Domino Park in Williamsburg, as well as Piers 45 and 46 at Hudson River Park, in an effort to enforce social distancing. We'll have much more on the pandemic in just a moment. First, though, a check on your forecast. John Elliott is live in his backyard in Essex County, New Jersey. And so the fire pit's back going, huh, John?
We've got gas back in the line. We've got a nice fire going here. Cindy, you asked me what I'm doing for my lovely wife for Mother's Day. Obviously, breakfast in bed, and this year it's her favorite sugar-coated toasted pastry.
Wait, like a Pop-Tart?
All out. Going all out. All right, so here's what we're serving up weather-wise. We've got chilly conditions right now, upper 30s. You know what? We're seeing more readings already in the mid-40s. Numbers around the area so much better than they were yesterday. A quick snapshot showing you the radar and the satellite, and they're taking the day off for Mother's Day. Thank you. It is going to be a sunny day today. Yeah, look. 62 for Mom. Now, it is going to be breezy, so it'll feel a little cooler than that, but still working in the right direction. We're going to talk more about that, have your 7-day forecast, and in honor of Mother's Day, it's a family affair. Going to introduce you to one of my very talented brothers and show you how he's reaching out during the pandemic as well. Right now, though, right back to Cindy.
You better come up with something different, John, but I look forward to meeting your brother. All right, Connecticut gearing up for a phased reopening. But what will that mean for efforts to coordinate reopening plans with New York and New Jersey? CBS 2's Tara Jakeway joins us live from Times Square with more. Tara?
Good morning, Cindy. Yes, that news of our neighbors to the north possibly opening businesses soon, echoing throughout a very quiet Times Square. One question on New Yorkers' minds, what about us?
We follow the guideline.
Vito Durario owns Zaza Italian Gastrobar on Broad Street in Stamford, Connecticut. He's scrambling to get his crew ready for customers who may once again be dining here on the property as early as May 20th.
So it's going to be a little bit tricky.
Barring an unexpected jump in coronavirus cases, Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont said he will greenlight 4 sectors: restaurants, personal services including salons, retail, and offices. For Connecticut restaurants, it means 50% capacity with outdoor dining only and tables set 6 feet apart. Menus will have to be digital or on chalkboards and workers in masks and gloves.
We have to do what we have to do to survive.
Different Northeast states reopening in different ways could include New Jersey, with beaches open by Memorial Day. We asked New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, is this consistent with his approach for it to be done regionally?
You have a cooperative regional approach. Does that change at all if Connecticut on the 20th has restaurants open so that Stamford is open but White Plains is not? And if in New Jersey you got some of the beaches open?
It's not my decision, but their actions make sense to me. And we will coordinate with that, and we talk through everything.
Do you tell them you might get a flood of New Yorkers?
We can't align every action, but we're aware of it and we're monitoring it.
It does concern me that tri-state area is opening, but not New York City.
Cuomo acknowledges that New Yorkers may have to travel far to get haircuts or dine in restaurants.
Be ready to adjust, be ready to move.
And Cindy, there might be some more moving here on Friday. That's because the New York on pause is still set to expire on the 15th. But again, the governor reserves the right to change that after he reviews those metrics. Cindy?
Tara, it's so interesting to see you in the middle of Times Square. And even though we know everything's shut down and everyone's social distancing, there's nothing going on there.
Yeah, it's very, very eerie, Cindy, just a sign of the times, something that as a New Yorker, a native New Yorker, lifelong New Yorker, something I never thought I would see and that I will certainly never forget. But again, it could all change this Friday. We'll have to keep tuned and we'll see. Live in Times Square, Tara Jakeway, CBS 2 News.
Tara, thank you. Well, the city is limiting capacity at some parks this weekend to help enforce social distancing rules. Police officers could be seen at entrances to Hudson River Park yesterday. They're doing the same thing at Domino Park in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. Officers will patrol the parks each day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They'll also hand out masks to people who don't have face coverings.
It was much warmer than today, and so there was really a lot of people. All the piers were crowded, a little bit too much, I think. In fact, we heard from Mayor de Blasio this week. He was probably not really happy with what he saw. Today is completely different. I think that the temperature is helping to keep people at home and more social distancing.
Mayor de Blasio says the decision to limit capacity came after an influx of people seemed to overwhelm some parks last weekend. Federal regulators have approved a new coronavirus antigen test that delivers fast results. The White House says it could be key to reopening the country. The Food and Drug Administration announced emergency authorization of the test yesterday. The agency says the test can rapidly detect fragments of virus proteins in samples collected from nasal swabs. The company that developed the test says it can provide results in 15 minutes. Well, the nation's top infectious disease doctor is now in what he calls a modified quarantine. Dr. Anthony Fauci says he had a low-risk encounter with a White House staffer who tested positive for COVID-19. Fauci is a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. He says he'll work from home and wear a mask for 14 days. Dr. Fauci says he'll get tested for the virus each day. So far, his test results have been negative. Fans are mourning the loss of rock and roll legend Little Richard. The trailblazing rock star born Richard Penniman died yesterday in Tennessee after a battle with bone cancer. He was known for his sky-high pompadour and joyful, over-the-top performances. His music was a mix of boogie, gospel, and blues, and everyone from Elton John to Prince counted him as a defining influence. Little Richard was 87 years old. It was an early Mother's Day surprise for a Long Island woman. The mother and her daughter were on the front lines of the coronavirus pandemic as nurses before they both contracted the disease. Yesterday, Katie Naranjo organized a car caravan with staff from Long Island Jewish Valley Stream Hospital. The group wanted to show support for recovering nurse case manager and Katie's mom, Luz Naranjo, who was on a ventilator for 10 days after falling ill.
I was really touched. They went all the way, out of their way, to just welcome me back, because I'm given a second life. I could replace it. I didn't see them for a month while I was at the hospital and rehab, and that was very painful. And now that I'm with them, nothing could replace that.
Katie and Luz both contracted coronavirus as Long Island Jewish Valley Stream was dealing with a surge of patients. Well, coming up, it is Asian American Heritage Month, and despite the pandemic, a celebration of heritage is in full swing around the city. We'll show you how. First, though, on this Mother's Day, we are celebrating moms, grandmas, wives, aunts, sisters, daughters, and friends. Here are some of the world's greatest moms from our viewers and some of our CBS 2 team. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. fire spreads to at least 6 multi-story homes in Paterson, New Jersey. It started after 10 o'clock last night on Beach Street. More than 100 firefighters from several towns worked to get the flames under control overnight. No one was hurt, and right now it's unclear what caused the fire. Investigators in Georgia are reviewing new video from the neighborhood where an unarmed black man was shot to death while jogging in February. The incident has sparked outrage and drawn national attention to Georgia and its justice system. CBS 2's Omar Villafranca has more.
This video, obtained by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation from a camera about a block away from where he was shot, shows a man in a white shirt and shorts going into and around a home under construction. The timestamp shows it happened within minutes of a 911 call reporting a burglary. 10 weeks after an armed father-son duo chased down a jogging Ahmaud Arbery and shot him to death,
I ran for Ahmaud.
People have been running for Ahmaud on what would have been his 26th birthday.
Put a white t-shirt on, because that was the color t-shirt he wore.
It's our freedom to be able to go out and run. We shouldn't be hunted down or anything like that.
Travis and Gregory McMichael were arrested Thursday and denied bail on Friday, charged in the February 23rd confrontation. This cell phone video recorded the moment Arbery was cornered by the men and shot twice by Travis while jogging near his mother's house in Brunswick, Georgia.
911 was to address the emergency.
In the McMichaels' 911 call that day, they told the operator they were chasing a burglary suspect. On the eve of Mother's Day, Arbery's own mom looked on as people launched these balloons in a hometown tribute, while Travis McMichael is behind bars, facing felony murder and aggravated assault charges, and his father Gregory is charged with being a party to felony murder and aggravated assault. Omar Villafranca, CBS News, Dallas.
May is Asian American Heritage Month, and although the coronavirus has gotten in the way of plans to celebrate in person, the Asia Society is offering dozens of virtual events instead. CBS 2's Charlie Cooper takes a closer look.
Arts and culture, business and education are the main pillars the Asia Society look to highlight during Asian American Heritage Month as they celebrate the achievements of Asians and Pacific Islanders in the United States. Sanjeev Sirchan is the executive director.
And it's also a moment to pay tribute to the generations of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who have enriched America's history and are instrumental in its future success.
There are more than 20 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders who call America home. They're the fastest growing ethnic group in the United States.
We are part of the social fabric, and we are changing the course of the U.S.'s history.
Sherchan says this year, highlighting their heritage is especially important in combating increased violence toward Asians who have received backlash amid the coronavirus pandemic.
This is why, we have done, Asian Society has done all these programs about how pandemics and viruses are not specific to any race or minority group.
In a 4-week-long event lineup, the Asia Society will digitally showcase art and host live events and conversations with Asian American leaders. They'll also offer a live cook-along, a virtual book club, and story time.
For those who aren't Asian American, why should they care about this and about knowing more about the issues that impact you guys?
The trials and tribulations that each different ethnic groups have gone through. I think there are a lot of commonalities. You can relate to each other, I think, and learn from those in your past experiences.
It's about promoting cultural understanding, social justice and inclusion, Sherchan says, and finding our common humanity. In Harlem, Charlie Cooper, CBS 2 News.
And there are lots of programs going on throughout the city with different organizations. You can just look online. Well, John Elliott, live at his home in Essex County, New Jersey, in his backyard. Hi, John. The sun is coming out there. Looks nice.
Oh, it is nice. It feels so much better than it did yesterday. Jacket's going to be off soon, mittens and gloves as well. So you know what? It is going to be a better day. Still a bit cool. Beautiful sun-kissed skies here and in the city, too. Just take a look at this view on, too. We've got nice conditions for New York in the park right now. In fact, we're starting to warm things up, 41. And here's why. It's the fine print. Always is. West-southwest wind at 10 miles an hour. So it is going to be a much better day today. Showers back in play and for more of the area Monday. And then it's warm late next week after we have that dip Monday into Tuesday. Yesterday, 48 felt like winter. We're warmer today. We're back in the 50s on Tuesday. So, yeah, we do see kind of some give and take. Today, we'll take it. A milder finish. I always say finisher because my dad was in the furniture business. For Mother's Day, risk of rain returns tomorrow. Could be briefly heavy in the morning. That's when you see the most mixing in the atmosphere. And then behind that, yeah, that's right, it's cold air again. So you're going to see numbers back in the 50s. And don't forget on Tuesday, it's going to be windy. So you're going to feel it. It'll feel cooler than 58. Today feels like the 50s, which is an improvement over yesterday, with highs just in the low 60s, still missing the mark. Should be closer to 70. Wet tomorrow, cool on Tuesday, then we start to recover, finally ending up with numbers above normal Friday. But don't forget, Thursday into Friday, chance of rain is back. Right now, long-range view, looks like the weekend is going to shape up and warm up as well. It's been so interesting to see how people are using technology during the pandemic. My brother, Hugh, is the worship coordinator at the Wesley United Methodist Church in Aurora, Illinois, where, just like here, no one can go to church. He was trying to think of ways to stay connected with his congregation. He saw a friend bake a pie, and it inspired him. So while I talk about the weather, he sings about it.
If the rain comes, they run and hide their heads. They might as well be dead. If the rain comes, if the rain comes.
It just was so comforting, and I thought, well, maybe that's like the one thing that I could offer people, but I'm not going to make pies, and I'm not going to, like, you know, talk to people. I'm just going to, like, sing songs.
I was born to make you happy. I think you're just my style. Everywhere I go, telling everyone I know, baby, I love to see you smile.
If kids are liking it, if there are children clamoring for more, then I'm always going to try to keep putting it out there. That was a delightful surprise.
Father and mother, sister and brother, if it feels nice, don't think twice. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel.
I love you.
I love you too.
So that's it on Mother's Day. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be that kind of connection, but family bonds are so strong. So I'll tell you, I'm one of 8 kids, and I'd really like to thank my photographer, Al, for pointing out that my brother, Thew, looks like my younger brother, when in fact he's my older brother. I'm the youngest son. They're all older, and they all look good. But, of course, I love my family, and I know everybody. It's about families on Mother's Day. It's just such a challenge this year, whatever it takes to stay connected. Cindy, we'll send it back to you.
Well, John, what I love about what you just presented to us is you can tell that making people happy runs in the Elliott family.
Absolutely. It's kind of it's a mission, it's a ministry, and yeah, we're happy. And I appreciate the opportunity with you, Cindy, and with everybody watching every Sunday. It's a real honor to be in your home.
All right. Love you. It is up next, a simple way to turn any night at home into a special occasion. Step-by-step guide to crafting a festive mocktail. First, though, on this Mother's Day, a look at some of the very special moms in our lives. You're watching CBS 2 News Sunday morning. Staying home has you feeling tired. A tropical getaway may only be as far away as your kitchen. CBS 2's Elle McLogan explains.
Stuck at home, there might be times you feel like having a drink. Something special, something that feels a little festive, but not necessarily alcoholic. For ideas, I reached out to a friend of mine who knows his beverages. His name is Rico, and he's a longtime bartender and global brand ambassador for Absolute Vodka. I called him at his apartment in Stockholm.
Today, we're going to make a non-alcoholic cocktail called the Alligatorade.
If someone's watching this and doesn't know when they would want a mocktail,
well, the best time to enjoy any form of mixed drink is just a special occasion.
under isolation, any night can be a special occasion if you try hard enough.
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing with cocktails is it's a taste experience. Mocktails can be just as much of an experience as a cocktail. Should we just jump straight into it?
Let's see it.
4 very simple ingredients. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. We're going to take our little cocktail shaker and we're going to add some cubed or fresh diced pineapple. I'm just using an ice cream scoop to smash this up. Fully pulverized. We're going to add like 1 part lemon juice, 4 parts coconut water, and then we're going to just add a little bit of spice to it. So we're going to add some aromatic bitters. Just a little dash of bitters. Any bitters of your choice. If you can't find the bitters, don't worry about it. It's just a nice little spicy flavor, but it's fine without. If you make this drink for your friends, don't use your hands for the ice. But I'm making it for myself, so my dirty hands are fine. Just stick the ice in there. Give that a real good shake.
If someone at home doesn't have shakers, is this possible to do in something else, like a jar?
Indeed. What I usually use, when it's not filled with flour, I use a Kilner jar.
Oh, nice.
If you shake it properly, I've even made cocktails in Tupperware. As long as you've really got something that you can like stick together and shake, I'm fine with it. We're going to take our glass, we're going to fill this with ice, because there's a lot of pineapple in here and a lot of pineapple fibers. You don't want to get them stuck in your teeth. I have a huge gap in the middle of my teeth. You don't want to get any fibers trapped in there. So we're going to fine strain it. And if you want to make it look pretty, stick a couple of pineapple leaves in there. And there you go. The Alligatorade. No straws. Never use a straw. It's not good for the seahorses. Refreshing.
You got a cool spot there on your mustache.
For much more about mocktails, find the extended video plus the full recipe on our website, cbsnewyork.com. Well, director Spike Lee is paying tribute to New York City in the way he knows best.
If I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
The filmmaker posted this short video on Instagram titled New York, New York, fittingly using Frank Sinatra's song of the same name. Features first responders, the city's heroes, and the empty streets of the city that have become such a common sight during the pandemic. Well, we have been celebrating Mother's Day all morning, and even while you're staying at home, there are many ways to make today a day Mom won't forget. If you're still looking for a way to celebrate the mother or mother figure in your life, there's still time to get a good gift, whether it's an online gift card to Mom's favorite store or restaurant or admission to a virtual course. You can always craft something handmade, pamper Mom for the day, or send flowers. Many florists are open today for delivery. Of course, what matters during these tough times is a gift from the heart.
After everything that's been going on, everyone wants to show their love, show their appreciation.
If you still want something store-bought, many stores in our area, including some Target and Best Buy locations, have curbside pickup options available. And if you're planning to make Mom breakfast in bed, be sure to do the dishes. Don't leave them for her. Thanks so much for spending part of your morning with us. I'm Cindy Hsu. Stay with CBS 2 for continuing coverage of the coronavirus pandemic, and we'll have updates throughout the day on air and online at cbsnewyork.com. Stay safe, have a great day, and very happy Mother's Day.
My mother graduated college with a degree in chemistry in the late 1940s, and no one would hire her. She finally said to one of them, "Why is no one hiring me?" And they said, "No one's going to hire you so that you can go leave and have children." I fell in love with the game of football as a very, very young kid. It was in college that I really found the then Oakland Raiders. I joined the organization as an intern, and I developed early on a strong working relationship with Al Davis. The way he told me that he was naming me chief executive officer was very nonchalant, and we were just doing business. It was actually more special in some regards to my mother. What was special was that he was willing to evaluate me on the merits without regard to gender.
There are people in this world who are evil.
I was raised in this cop land.
You're not a creep, you're just a mess.
Figuring out whether to watch a German series about serial killers or a Scandinavian.
Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Sunday Morning. Introduced this morning on Yes, Cups and Bowls, thanks to Tim Nicholas Tang of Vancouver. Today is Mother's Day, a Mother's Day under quarantine in many parts of the country. Being cooped up puts stress on moms and on any couple that pledges to stay together for better or for worse, as Tracy Smith will report in our cover story.
The marriage vows say to have and to hold, but they never said anything about doing it 24/7.
I think the biggest thing I realized is that she chews too loudly.
That's true. And Jason sleeps too loudly.
I think I probably get a little perturbed quicker than he does.
The highs and lows of wedlock under lockdown, ahead on Sunday morning.
Our Sunday profile this morning, Reese Witherspoon, who balances her role as actress and producer with being a mom. She'll be talking with our Rita Braver.
She's not only a huge star.
Did you think you were just going to waltz into my house?
But also a respected producer and devoted mother of 3. And do you ever have any of those days, like the rest of us have, to say, I can't do one more thing today.
Oh my
I cannot
gosh.
do it.
I'll lay on the floor and cry.
Later on Sunday morning, what keeps Reese Witherspoon going?
He led the nation through another time of crisis, years of war and economic turmoil. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, was a leader who inspired with both words and deeds, as we'll hear in a special look back from John Dickerson and Ted Koppel.
FDR was the master of the medium when the nation faced economic depression and war, and the medium was radio.
The task that we Americans now face.
Different presidents, different media. From the days when television was king.
Well, you're subject to me to some abuse, but not to any lack of respect, I don't think.
To a time when the president dominates the media with his thumbs. Ahead on a Sunday morning.
Allison Aubrey examines the healing promise of plasma transfusions. Erin Moriarty considers the challenge to students learning to do without schools. We'll visit the zoo with Connor Knighton. Chef Bobby Flay serves up Mother's Day breakfast, plus Steve Hartman, Jim Gaffigan, Faith Saley, and more on this Sunday morning, the 10th of May, 2020. We'll be back in a moment.
I am from the south side of Chicago. That tells you as much about me as you need to know. So little of who I am happened in those 8 years. So much more of who I was happened before. How's everybody doing? We can't afford to wait for the world to be equal, to start feeling seen.
I have the power to change the world.
Rated PG. Heroes walk this canyon. The greatest of them. Soldiers, astronauts, icons that have shaped this world. Its walls have rung with the roar of appreciation and the thunder of admiration since the birth of New York. And now there are new heroes to celebrate, who stood by us, who stood with us, who held our hands, often for our last breaths. And because of them, this canyon of heroes has been extended all through the city and beyond. And even though ticker tape might not be falling, and even though currently the windows are still closed, the thunder can be heard. And will be for generations to come.
Children's Aid works with children living in poverty, and our ultimate goal is to make sure that they are succeeding and thriving. What's a little overwhelming right now is that that safety net is tenuous. We are going to see food insecurity. We are going to see housing insecurity. We are going to see mental health issues, and we are going to see, I'm sad to say, abuse. I actually am struggling to even think about what those communities start to look like without us.
If you or someone you care about is living with a mental health condition, visit NAMI.org to learn more about free programs and services that can help. CBS Cares.
CBS Cares is sponsored locally by the Calm app. Sleep more, stress less, live better.
Calm. Download the free app now.
Mother's Day in quarantine. A first we'd all prefer to do without. For better or for worse, members of every family and every couple are feeling the strain and learning new things about each other. Our cover story is reported by Tracy Smith.
And right over this way, please, go on. Right over there.
Samantha Bee and Jason Jones are both known for their comedy. But it turns out they're especially good at improvising. Their weekly program on TBS usually tapes in New York City. But when coronavirus shut it down,
we are going to really try to bring you a brand new episode of Full Frontal this week.
They headed upstate, taking their 3 kids.
Hold it prompter higher.
Sorry.
And their show with them.
Right here. I should really be teaching them math.
And now, after 19 years of marriage, it's togetherness like never before.
Act 4, take 1.
I mean, you guys are old pros at kind of being in each other's business. You've worked together for a long time now. Is it different now that you are locked down?
I think the biggest thing I realized is that she chews too loudly.
That's true. And Jason sleeps too loudly.
I do. I'm a loud sleeper.
So noisy.
I don't snore. I'm just a loud sleeper. I make sounds.
Kidding aside, for Samantha, Jason, and the other 60 million or so married couples in America, the past 8 weeks have been a real eye-opener. The vows might say, "Till death do us part," but they don't say anything about being together all day, every day.
You know, this is a time when people are losing their lives. There are people risking their lives, going to work every day. Is it a little indulgent for us to be talking about romance?
Not at all. There's no hierarchy of pain, that pain is pain and suffering is suffering. So for some people, they're suffering loss of life. Other people are losing out on things like they're not going to go to their child's graduation. And those are real losses. And so I think it's important that this isn't the grief Olympics. You know, we don't need to measure it on some kind of scale of whose is higher on this hierarchy.
Psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb is the author of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. And right now, a lot of married folks are talking to her.
What kind of things are you hearing from couples?
What's interesting is we talk so much about isolation, and I'm hearing a lot from couples about not having enough space.
I used to make fun of George W. Bush when he used to go down to the ranch and clear brush. That was his thing.
Right.
I get it now.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah. Jason's like a hole digger. He'll be like, I'm in the back.
Just got to dig a hole.
I'm digging holes.
There are no holes out here, but 1,000 miles away.
Oh, man.
In Memphis, Tennessee.
Let's try it again.
Devontae and Alyssa Payton have some of the same issues. And with 3 kids and another due in August, privacy is nearly impossible.
Ashes, we all fight. My tub is my sanctuary.
Your bathtub?
Yes, and sometimes the toilet, I just lock the door and just sit because it's quiet, and it's the only door that locks in our room. So.
And having a door that locks might be important for other reasons.
Touch is so important. What we're experiencing right now is skin hunger. It's a real phenomenon.
Skin hunger.
Skin hunger. It's a phenomenon where our nervous systems get activated when we don't have physical touch. And because we're not getting that out in the world with the normal sort of hugs and handshakes and the ways that we would normally get that, it's really important that we're getting that from the people that we're social distancing with in our own households.
There's actually something called skin hunger that we all, as humans, need touch. And so this expert that, I love how you're going like this, Devontae.
So physical touch is my love language.
And mine, not so much. How we made it to 4 children, I don't know.
Of course, not every marriage is quite as strong as the Paytons. The most recent government figures say the divorce rate actually dropped in the past 10 years. But now there's speculation that the quarantine could make those divorce numbers jump.
Have you heard the phrase, corona divorce?
Yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, we're getting a lot of calls from people at their wits' end with their spouses or live-ins, and, we try to kind of talk them off the ledge.
Laura Wasser is a family law attorney in Los Angeles who knows her way around a divorce court. Among her past clients, Angelina Jolie, Johnny Depp, and Maria Shriver.
Wasn't it Tom Petty who said the waiting is the hardest part? I represented his wife in their divorce. I got her half of that song.
What's more, two of the stars of Marriage Story, Laura Dern and Scarlett Johansson, both hired Laura Wasser for their real-life breakups.
There have been situations where I have seen how people behave, and I think there's no amount of counseling that they will make this through.
Is there one particular attitude or something that you could pinpoint?
Yeah, but I would have to use profanity.
That's okay.
Somebody being a real...
So if you just have to get away and can't afford her $950 an hour fee, she has a website called It's Over Easy that'll take you through the divorce process for around $1,500. But Wasser also told us that even when the quarantine is lifted, she's not expecting a big stampede for divorce court.
Without sounding too Pollyannish about it, I really do think that if people are able to communicate and use tools and get, more intimate with each other, both intellectually and physically during this time, they might come out of the quarantine stronger.
You say that as a divorce lawyer.
I do. I've been doing this for a long time, and I see human nature and human relationships, and I do think that if people can make it through a situation like this, like they say, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Same goes for a relationship.
And she may be onto something.
I'm trying to think of a word that isn't corny. Are there gifts of this lockdown?
It is a gift. Don't even look at me when I say this, but I'm enjoying it. I feel very close to you. I love you. It's fun working with you. Sorry, this is why I married you, because I enjoy you.
Right.
I apologize for being real.
Psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb.
Are you hopeful about relationships and how everybody's going to end up when we're finally allowed outside again?
I feel like people are now looking at what is really important to me and who matters to me and what can I do to nurture those relationships.
We're treasuring it a little more.
We're not taking each other for granted anymore.
Metastatic breast cancer is relentless. But I'm relentless too, because every day matters. And having more of them is possible with Verzenio, the only one of its kind proven to help you live significantly longer when taken with fulvestrant, regardless of menopausal status. And it's the only one of its kind you can take every day.
Verzenio plus fulvestrant is approved for women with HR-positive, HER2-negative metastatic breast cancer whose disease has progressed after hormonal treatment. Diarrhea is common, may be severe, or cause dehydration or infection. At first sign of diarrhea, call your doctor, start an antidiarrheal, and drink fluids. Before taking Verzenio, tell your doctor if you have fever, chills, or other signs of infection. Verzenio may cause low white blood cell counts, which may cause serious infection that can lead to death. Life-threatening inflammation of the lungs can occur. Talk to your doctor if you have new or worsening trouble breathing, cough, or chest pain. Serious liver problems can happen. Symptoms include tiredness, appetite loss, stomach pain, and bleeding or bruising. Blood clots that can lead to death have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have pain or swelling in your arms or legs, shortness of breath, chest pain, and rapid breathing or heart rate, or if you are pregnant or nursing.
Every day matters, and I want more of them.
Ask your doctor about everyday Verzenio. Discover a new world. Discover what's good. Pantene Nutrient Blends.
Scientists the world over are rolling up their sleeves to develop a COVID-19 vaccine, as well as treatments for those who already have the disease. Allison Aubrey of NPR.
parents and with other teachers, all while she's home taking care of her own 2 children.
1 ball.
Including a 5-year-old son, trying to learn remotely as well.
There are days where I'm just like, okay, what else? Like, something has to give, because this is just pure craziness, the expectation.
Aren't all teachers in the exact same boat as you are?
I don't have a doubt in my mind that there's a teacher out there that isn't giving it everything they've got. But you just still feel like you fall short.
Falling short.
Yes.
When migraine strikes, there's new quick dissolve Nurtec. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec. Pay as little as $0. Learn more at Nurtec.com.
At RWJ Barnabas Health, we thank you for all your sacrifices, for staying home, for putting off visits for the sake of others, for sending us food and messages to uplift our spirits. And we thank you, New Jersey, for trusting us to uplift our spirits. Precaution as we say welcome you back. For trusting us to uplift our spirits. Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Children's Aid works with children living in poverty, and our ultimate goal is to make sure that they are succeeding and thriving. What's a little overwhelming right now is that safety net is tenuous. We are going to see food insecurity. We are going to see housing insecurity. We are going to see mental health issues, and we are going to see our staff abuse. I actually am struggling to even think about what those communities start to look like.
When migraine strikes, there's new quick dissolve Nurtec. Don't take if allergic to Nurtec. Pay as little as $0. Learn more at Nurtec.com.
Stay with us for continuing coverage of the coronavirus pandemic.
Time for a Sunday morning field trip to the zoo. Connor Knighton is our guide.
Walking around the deserted San Diego Zoo and Safari Park, I felt like I was the one on display.
Hello. Where'd all the people go, right?
From the giraffes to the gorillas, the animals were paying me quite a bit of extra attention. After all, they hadn't seen human tourists since mid-March.
This is a typically high season for us, with lots of guests coming through. Really, it's incredible to see it without guests right now.
Paul Barabal is the CEO of San Diego Zoo Global.
Oh, look at the baby!
The nonprofit that manages San Diego's 1,800-acre safari park and 100-acre zoo, the most visited zoo in the entire country. Both locations closed to the public on March 16th.
You've been open for more than a century. Has there ever been a closure of this magnitude before?
There's never been a closure of this magnitude before. The most that the San Diego Zoo has ever been closed is a single day, and that's only happened 5 days in the organization's history.
In the midst of historic COVID-related closures happening across the country, zoos face a special set of challenges. Shut a bookstore down, and the books inside are fine. But when a zoo closes, what happens to all of the animals?
Nothing is being skipped, nothing is being changed. Their day is going to be the same.
Bree Barney is a wildlife care specialist in charge of San Diego's kangaroos. While the zoo has furloughed ticket takers and concession stand workers, employees involved with animal care have been deemed essential. Barney's work continues as usual, with a few small modifications. She now wears a mask when hanging out with the marsupials.
They look at you a little bit differently. Sometimes you'll kind of get the kangaroo or the wallaby to kind of cock their head a little, like, who are you and what are you doing?
They don't recognize you with the mask?
Yeah.
Once news broke that lions and tigers at the Bronx Zoo had caught COVID-19 from a staff member, procedures changed at zoos across the country.
Tequila!
Now, mealtime means mask time. But, of course, all of that food is expensive. And with everything from the Zootique to the Roar store currently closed, zoos are hemorrhaging money.
The minute the front gate closed, unfortunately, we stopped making money, and our expenses really didn't change. The animals still have to be cared for.
Matt Thompson is the chief zoological officer at the Memphis Zoo, a zoo with a much smaller budget and smaller financial safety net than San Diego.
March through June is when we make 60% of our revenue, so recovering from this, honestly, is going to be very, very difficult.
With the expense of ongoing animal care, Thompson is predicting a $10 million loss for the year. And yet, the zoo has still managed to sign up a few new members, even at a time when members can't visit.
This is Crookshanks, a ball python.
The Memphis Zoo has been churning out hours of educational content to keep fans engaged.
It's another beautiful day.
And also some less educational content. In their popular Zoo-Olympics videos, they've capitalized on the current lack of sports programming and have been awarding medals and everything from the tortoise 100-meter sprint.
Blazing start for Lil Dab, who was extremely quick in the East Africa time trials.
To the pelican fish catch.
Radar gets the gold with 5 fish.
Zoos have had to get creative with their programming. The Florida Aquarium has launched a series of C-SPAN videos with a behind-the-scenes look at operations. The Denver Zoo invited fans to vote on the name of their new baby rhino, for a small donation, of course. Juna ultimately won out.
Life at the zoo continues. We continue to have births.
Back in San Diego, spring births are in full swing. Newborn penguin chicks are learning to swim. An Andean bear cub is taking its first steps. For the animals, this is a year just like any other year. But since normal visitation still looks to be a long way off, San Diego's congressional representatives have written a letter to Speaker Pelosi asking to direct $1 billion of funding to the Institute of Museum and Library Services that would help keep zoos across the country afloat. In the meantime, empty parking lots have been serving a new purpose. From Pittsburgh to Knoxville to the Bronx, zoos have become COVID-19 testing locations for humans.
Once weekly Ozempic is helping many people with type 2 diabetes like James lower their blood sugar. A majority of adults who took Ozempic reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
Here's your A1C.
Oh, my A1C is under 7.
And you may lose weight. Adults who took Ozempic lost on average up to 12 pounds.
I lost almost 12 pounds.
Oh.
For those also with known heart disease, Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as heart attack, stroke, or death.
It lowers the risk.
Oh. Ozempic is not for people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis. Do not share needles or pens. Don't reuse needles. Do not take Ozempic if you have a personal or family history of medullary thyroid cancer, multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or if you are allergic to Ozempic. Stop taking Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, itching, rash, or trouble breathing. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Tell your doctor if you have diabetic retinopathy or vision changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Common side effects are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, and constipation. Some side effects can lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems.
Once weekly Ozempic is helping me reach my blood sugar goal.
Ask your healthcare provider today about once weekly Ozempic. We remain committed to keeping Ozempic available and affordable during these challenging times. With the Ozempic Savings Card, you may be eligible to pay as little as $25 for a 1-month or 3-month prescription.
Chances are you know us.
Yoo-hoo! Progressive shoppers.
We laughed with you.
Sprinkles are for winners.
We surprised you. On occasion, we've probably even annoyed you. We've done this all with one thing in mind, to help protect the things you love. And if we can't offer you the best price, we'll help you find a better one.
Not always the lowest.
Even if it's not with us. That's how we've done it for the past 80 years. Not just today, or this month, but always.
Catastrophic job losses from the COVID pandemic. Can America's economy rebound? And if so, when? Join Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation today.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, let me ask you about that vaccine. How are these human trials going? Are we ahead of schedule? What's the data that you see?
Making sense of our world. The CBS Evening News with Norah O'Donnell on CBS.
Tonight, Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump.
Life's like a box of chocolates.
The CBS Sunday Night Movies are back tonight at 8, 7 Central on CBS.
Oh, it's happy Mother's Day from your daughter far away. Loving wishes, hugs and kisses. Happy, happy Mother's Day. Happy, happy Mother's Day. Oh, it's happy Mother's Day.
It's a special day, so we decided to shake things up and tiptoe through the tulips of Amsterdam.
Now from CBS 2 News, this is a special report.
Mayor de Blasio is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Let's listen in.
All the mothers of New York City. Right there is a beautiful image of the mother that we are honoring and celebrating in our family today. Our First Lady, who raised 2 wonderful children. There are so many mothers all over this city who do extraordinary things every single day. And I want to start by saying, everyone, as you show your love, you show your appreciation, you celebrate the moms of your families and the moms of New York City today, remember, first and all, let's think about the greatest gift we can give besides our love is the gift of keeping them safe. So if a mom in your life is vulnerable at this moment because of this crisis, if a mom is older or has those pre-existing conditions, remember, lots and lots of ways to show love. But let's make sure we keep mom safe no matter what. That's job one today, is showing our love and respect by keeping the moms in our life safe. Now, there are some moms who deserve particular credit, and they are the moms who are on the front lines fighting for all of us, the moms out there who are members of the doctors, the nurses, the members of the NYPD and FDNY, so many moms who, in addition to the everyday heroism, what they do in their families, they've been heroes in this fight against the coronavirus. So we owe a special thanks to the moms, the essential workers who have been there on the front line, while at the same time caring for their families. What an extraordinary thing they have done. Let's give them our love and respect today. By the way, as we say in our household, every day is Mother's Day. So special appreciation today, and then let's continue it the other 364 days of the year. Okay, let's talk about what it's going to take to get us to move forward here in this city as we fight our way through this crisis and move to a better place. And to get there, we've talked in recent days a lot about what we have to do with testing and tracing. But there's a whole additional piece to this equation, and it's the medical side of the equation, the eventual pathway to a vaccine and a treatment. We know right now, with the state of medical science, that we all need to stay devoted to the things that work now, the social distancing, the shelter in place, the using face coverings, while there's time provided to all the people in the medical field to find those bigger solutions, and everyone's working hard on it. But in the meantime, there are some new examples of progress. They're important in the here and now. Even though the ultimate goal, of course, is a vaccine and a treatment, there's some things happening that actually are going to help those afflicted with the coronavirus here and now. And some hope this last week when the FDA approved a new drug for treating those with severe cases of the coronavirus. Remdesivir, it's a drug that now is being utilized as part of the trials that is going through in some of our public hospitals. Jacobi, North Central Bronx, among others, are starting to use this drug to treat those who are suffering and to make sure that this is hopefully part of the long-term plan to help people. What we're seeing so far is that this drug has decreased hospital stays for those who have utilized it from 15 days to 11 days. Now, that may not sound like a lot to you on first blush, but let me tell you, that means 4 less days of suffering for that patient, 4 less days of worrying for their family, 4 days sooner that each patient can get home to their families and continue their recovery. So it's a big deal. And I want to tell you, the company involved, Gilead, donated over 500,000 doses of this drug to the federal government to distribute, and that's a great thing. So far, however, we've gotten very few doses of the drug provided to New York City, only 4,000 doses for hospitals here, our public hospitals that particularly need them the most. And we need that number greatly intensified. In fact, we need about 10 times that much just to get started. I've reached out to the White House. I've sent a letter to the president. I've spoken to White House officials to try and speed up this shipment. So this is something that could really help, and this is an example of something we need here in the city, because whether we like it or not, we're still the epicenter of this crisis. So I am hoping that the White House will hear our plea and quickly get us the additional doses we need. Now, when we think about the toll this crisis has taken, when we think about the pain it has caused here in this city, we think about the lives we've lost. For all of us who work in public service, there's a particular pain to reflecting on the fact that a number of people who have spent their lives helping their fellow New Yorkers lost their lives due to the coronavirus over these last weeks. People who their entire mission, sense of purpose was helping other New Yorkers, people we looked up to, people we appreciated, that we've lost those that we particularly honor for what they do for others. 260 public servants, 260 city employees have lost their lives. And this includes police officers, correction officers, teachers, EMTs, doctors and nurses, people who have given so much and gave the ultimate sacrifice fighting this disease. Now, their families, in some cases, are facing the loss of health insurance, and we want to make sure there's immediate support for those families. So I am extending by 45 days health insurance coverage for families of municipal employees who passed away from COVID-19. This is a specific request we got from the Municipal Labor Council, and the MLC has been a key partner in everything we've done over the last 6+ years. Believed it was crucial to get this 45-day extension to families so they could have that piece of security right now as they're dealing with so much else. There is a much bigger effort that we hope to achieve with partners all over the city, all over the country, in getting much deeper benefits for public employees and for all essential workers included in the next federal stimulus bill. I'm hearing some good signs that the Congress is moving in that direction, but we still need to see more, and obviously we need to see that bill voted out. But I'm more hopeful that we're going to see something really significant in that stimulus legislation. In the meantime, we want to help these families right away with this health insurance extension. Now, we've said many times this is a disease which is so troubling and challenging because it's so new, literally did not exist as far as medical science knew in human beings just 6-7 months ago. There's still so many unanswered questions. There's still things we see that confound doctors and scientists. We keep learning every day, and we keep hoping that by learning every day we're going to find solutions. But some of the things we're learning are raising new questions and concerns, and particularly deep concern is anything that might affect our children who previously have not been affected by this disease by and large anywhere near as much as adults, and particularly older adults. But there is a rare condition which we're seeing more of just in the last days, and it is causing tremendous concern. I'm deeply concerned. As a father, I am feeling the concern I know other parents are feeling. Our health leadership is deeply concerned. Doctors are now calling this pediatric multisystem inflammatory syndrome. And what it does is basically in a child's body triggers intensive, almost overwhelming immune system response. And that actually causes harm to the body. So as the body is fighting, it fights in such a manner that actually starts to cause other problems. The symptoms are fever, rash, abdominal pain, and vomiting. So last week, our health department alerted doctors, alerted the people in New York City that we're seeing cases of this and that we need everyone who experiences this to get help right away. Every family that sees a child going through this to get help right away. Every healthcare professional sees anything like this to report it to our health department. And we're getting more information now, and it certainly is causing us additional concern. So now, as of today, there have been 38 cases detected here in New York City. That's up from 15 at the last count. There are 9 more cases that the specifics of the case are still pending, meaning they're still making an evaluation to determine if it is this syndrome or not. Now, of the cases that have been verified, 47% of the kids involved tested positive for the coronavirus at that point. Of those who tested negative, 81% had the antibody, so had been exposed at some previous point. So that's telling our doctors and our scientists a lot. This is something we really need to focus on and address. We have lost one child in New York City, and previously this was something that we didn't see cases of. Then we started to see a few cases, then we saw more cases. Now we've actually lost a child to this syndrome, and that is deeply, deeply troubling. And I want to express my condolences to the family that's lost their child, and our hearts go out to you. This is something all New Yorkers are feeling, this new threat. So we now are going to make a major priority of addressing this. A set of new actions are being undertaken. At our public hospitals, at health and hospitals, all facilities will do antibody testing for all children with the symptoms, with fever, with abdominal pain, gastrointestinal symptoms. That will be done across the board. That guidance is being given to all pediatricians in New York City, calling on all hospitals, not just public, but all private and independent hospitals to do the same, to start immediately administering these tests when you see these symptoms. Our medical leadership, our health leadership, Department of Health, Health and Hospitals, convening pediatricians from around the city on a video conference to analyze more of this information and learn more together what's going on. We're sending a health alert to the parents of more than 1 million public school kids to put them on alert of this challenge and make sure anyone who sees these symptoms in their kids gets health care immediately, reaches out to their doctor, or gets their child to health care immediately. Also, obviously, although our schools are by and large shut down, we do have our regional enrichment centers for the children of essential workers. All regional enrichment centers are being instructed to increase enforcement of the use of face coverings and masks and the use of hand sanitizer. So we're going to take steps immediately, but remember, every parent out there, if you see these symptoms, take them seriously, act immediately. This is a real problem, but it's a problem that can be addressed if it's caught early. So I want to emphasize to parents, if you see these symptoms, report them to your doctor immediately. If you don't have a doctor, call 311 to get connected to a doctor, a clinician at health and hospitals. We want to make sure everyone takes this seriously, and if you see these symptoms, act immediately. Okay, I want to go back to the topic of social distancing. And as we talk about the challenges we face, as we talk about the hope for new medical solutions, we got to keep coming back to the fact that the thing that has worked, the reason we've made progress and can continue to make progress in this city is because of what all of you have done, the extraordinary effort New Yorkers have shown around social distancing, the extraordinary effort to stay home to the maximum extent possible, to wear those face coverings. All of these pieces, they work, and you've done it, and we need to keep doing it. Now, generally speaking, New Yorkers have just done the right thing. I mean, overwhelmingly, New Yorkers have done the right thing. That doesn't mean in a city of 8.6 million people, you don't need reminders, you don't need education, you don't need some enforcement. I believe you do need all those things. I believe that's true of everything in our society. No matter how good people are, no matter how much there's an amazing team effort going on with 8.6 million people, we still need the ability to enforce these rules when needed and only when needed. What we don't need is anything that goes beyond the proper enforcement of these rules into something else. And we saw a very troubling video a few days back from the Lower East Side, an instance of the wrong approach to policing. That was very alienating to so many people in this city. You know, we've come a long way in New York City to change the nature of policing, to build trust between police and community, to de-escalate conflicts, to train officers to help bring down the temperature. And that has worked in so many ways, but we certainly have seen one video in particular, and there have been some others that have raised concern, and I think they pull at people in a very real and painful way and remind us of things that were too common for too long that are not acceptable. So I want to make sure we emphasize the positive, the extraordinary effort that New Yorkers have made around social distancing on their own, listening to the guidance, helping each other to remember to social distance. That's the big story here. The vast majority of the work that's been done by the NYPD and all the other enforcement agencies has been education, going out reminding people, more and more giving them face coverings for free, which is great, and never wanting to give a summons unless it's absolutely necessary. And in fact, remember, the number of summonses given is very, very small throughout this crisis, fewer than 10 a day for the whole city. But that being said, the last thing we want to see is enforcement if there's any other way to get the job done. So we're going to increase intensely the number of public servants who are out there educating, providing face coverings, reminding people of the rules, helping people to get it right. Enforcement has always been the last resort. It will still be there when needed. But we're going to have more and more social distancing ambassadors. We put together a group of 1,000 non-NYPD personnel who have been going out already. We're going to increase that number to 2,300 by next weekend. City employees charged with educating, reminding, providing the face coverings, going out there and working with people and helping them get to the right place. Again, positive approach has been working in so many ways. We're going to double down on that. If we ever need enforcement, it's there. And again, we will be quick to enforce, particularly in the situations that are most dangerous, such as large gatherings. But more and more of the emphasis will be on a communicative, encouraging approach through these social distancing ambassadors. And with a team of 2,300, we'll be able to reach deeply into the city and make a very big impact. So I want to thank our good public servants who are going to be a part of this effort. It's going to help save lives. It's going to help so many New Yorkers, and really, really appreciate all that you are doing and will do. Okay, now, another piece of this has been the important work of protecting some of the most vulnerable New Yorkers in the middle of this crisis. And we've talked about all through the week something very big, something very different that's happening with the changes that have been made at the MTA to do the nighttime cleanings. First night, we saw something we had never seen before. Literally, in the history of the city, an extraordinary number of homeless folks who came off the trains, weren't going to be able to stay in the stations, came up above ground, saw there were people there from the city ready to help them, ready to provide them support and service and shelter, and a huge number of them accepted that offer. Of course, the first time you see something, you say, let's see if this is real. Next night, we saw equally good results. The next night, again, we keep seeing something very special happening. So, to give you the reports from the last couple of nights, on Friday night, our homeless outreach workers and trained NYPD officers who focus on homeless outreach, they engaged 416 homeless individuals coming out of the subway in those early morning hours. 212 of them accepted services. 183 went to shelter, 29 went to hospital. Again, amazing, amazing fact. More than half. We've seen this every night. These are numbers we've literally never seen in our history. Happened again on Friday night. So what about Saturday night? 384 people engaged in the subway, 198 accepted services, 175 went to shelter, 23 to the hospital. This is just amazing. I mean, this is about changing people's lives. Think about if someone's life had come apart over months and years to the point they were living permanently on the street. And now, in just a matter of days, hundreds upon hundreds of people accepting services, coming into shelter. Now we'll be able to get them the mental health support, the substance misuse treatment. Now we'll really be able to change the lives of so many of them for good. But we have now seen this day after day. We got a lot more to do, but this is an amazing step forward and really, really encouraging what we're seeing. And again, a great thank you to all our partners, the MTA, the state, of course, the NYPD and social services, homeless services, those amazing outreach workers. Keep doing this great, great work. It's having a huge, huge impact. So every day I try and count my blessings, and every day I try and remember to be thankful. And I know so many of you feel the same way in this crisis. We've gone through a lot together, but we also remember all the good around us. The people are doing so much good, and the people who are trying so hard to help each other. And I like to remember to publicly thank a lot of folks who have stepped forward to help New York City. So a list of thank yous today, starting with the skincare company Tatcha and its founder, Vicky Tsai, who donated 1 million non-surgical masks. That's really amazing donation, wonderful. Educare Germany has donated 20,000 KN95 masks. AIG has donated 1,500 N95 masks. Mattel donated 20,000 surgical masks and over 6,000 face shields. Perrigo has donated 50,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. IEDM has donated 50,000 non-medical masks. The UN Staff Union donated 10,000 non-medical masks. Project Isaiah donated 400 tablets to H&H. And BNY Mellon donated 150 tablets to H&H. Friends of Rockaway donated 2,000 non-medical face shields. Center for Professional Education of Teachers donated 7,000 surgical masks, and Warby Parker Lab donated 1,900 non-medical masks. Warby Parker's been amazing. What they've been doing for our school kids for years with eyeglasses. Now they're helping in the fight against the coronavirus too. We're thankful to them. We're thankful to all the people and all the companies, all the organizations that keep stepping up. It helps every single time. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and all New Yorkers are thankful to you. Okay, every day we go over the indicators and what they tell us about the direction we're going in. So this weekend, generally good. Yesterday, very, very good. All three indicators down yesterday. Today, a mixed bag. In terms of the people admitted to the hospital with suspected COVID-19, we had a break-even day, 69 one day, 69 the next day. Now, thank God that number is as low as 69. That's a very good thing. But again, we want to see steady downward trends. People currently in our public hospital ICUs with suspected COVID-19, that is down, and that is very, very important. Down from 559 to 540. Still too many people, but that's real progress. Now, this is the one that didn't go right today. Percentage of people tested who are testing positive for COVID-19 citywide, up from 12% to 17%. So still a much lower percentage than where we were just weeks ago, but we want to get that going in the same direction. So when you take Saturday and Sunday together, a very good weekend, not yet exactly what we're looking for, but a very good weekend. And you know what I'll say next. Keep doing what you're doing, because it clearly is working. We just need to do more of it and keep disciplined and keep strong. Few words in Spanish. Feliz Dia de las Madres. Celebre a su mama.
You've been listening to Mayor de Blasio give an update on the coronavirus outbreak in New York City. We're now returning to regular programming on CBS 2. For extended local coverage, stick with our streaming service, CBSN New York.
This has been a special report from CBS 2 News. We now return to our regular programming.
To work with the president. That didn't mean Roosevelt was without enemies.
I think there's a kind of an assumption that everything for him worked, but he had very, very strong opposition. There was plenty of partisanship, and there were plenty of Republicans and some Democrats who thought that he was becoming a dictator.
Soon enough, Roosevelt would be fighting real dictators in the Second World War, which ultimately lifted the country out of the Depression. America became a beacon for the world, and its leader, Roosevelt, offered a new way to measure the worth of a nation.
And he said, you know, the test of our progress is not whether we provide much to those who have much, but whether we provide enough to those who have too little.
That is the test posed by FDR for America's leaders today. Not just to survive, but to plot a course for a way to emerge from this crisis stronger.
Ahead, Ted Koppel with more on FDR's fireside chats and the ways other presidents have made themselves heard when we come back.
Every financial plan needs a CFP professional. Confident financial plans, calming financial plans, complete financial plans. They're all possible with a CFP professional. Find yours at letsmakeaplan.org. For people living with HIV, keep being you and ask your doctor about Biktarvy. Biktarvy is a complete one-pill, once-a-day treatment used for HIV in certain adults. It's not a cure, but with one small pill, Biktarvy fights HIV to help you get to and stay undetectable. That's when the amount of virus is so low, it cannot be measured by a lab test. Research shows people who take HIV treatment every day and get to and stay undetectable can no longer transmit HIV through sex.
Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Rare, life-threatening side effects include a buildup of lactic
salicylic acid, and liver problems. Do not take Biktarvy if you take dofetilide or rifampin. Tell your doctor about all the medicines and supplements you take if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, or if you have kidney or liver problems, including hepatitis. If you have hepatitis B, do not stop taking Biktarvy without talking to your doctor. Common side effects were diarrhea, nausea, and headache.
If you're living with HIV, keep loving who you are and ask your doctor if Biktarvy is right for you.
We've come a long, long way together. I have to praise you like I should.
FDR's fireside chats forever changed the way our presidents communicate. In fact, as Ted Koppel now tells us, they set an example for every president to come.
Imagine the world a century ago. There was film, of course, but the news was delivered almost exclusively in print. Tens of millions had been killed in the First World War. Tens of millions more died in a global influenza pandemic. After the war, in France, the American president, Woodrow Wilson, mustered his wartime allies behind a so-called League of Nations. But he couldn't sell the plan here at home. Wilson crisscrossed the country by rail, delivering one speech after another. The effort almost killed him.
It's easy to think, okay, presidents are always kind of barnstorming, going around the country, talking to the people.
Jill Lepore is professor of American history at Harvard University.
To campaign on your own behalf was considered undignified well through the 19th century. So even just going around the country was a novelty.
In effect, Wilson was going door to door, but he had none of the tools that would amplify the campaigns of future presidents. Not that Warren Harding recognized radio's potential. As for Calvin Coolidge, they didn't call him Silent Cal for nothing. Herbert Hoover? No, he never got the hang of radio either. That was left for Franklin Roosevelt and those famous fireside chats.
This bank holiday, while resulting in many cases in great inconvenience, is affording us the opportunity to supply the currency necessary to meet the situation.
And he's explaining to the American people he's about to shut down the banking system. And there's an incredible intimacy to his voice, but it has a quality of compassion to it.
It is your problem, my friends. Your problem no less than it is mine. Together, we cannot fail.
This, remember, was at a time when radio announcers wore tuxedos to work.
Quiet, please.
When their delivery was incredibly stylized.
Rubinoff and his violin.
And what did FDR do?
The task that we Americans now face.
He memorized those talks so that his delivery was much more relaxed.
Never before have we had so little time in which to do so much.
He understood that radio was a performative medium, that it wasn't like other kinds of performances. FDR, I think, kind of took that philosophy to the citizenry itself, right? That he would try to enlist their support by what would appear to be a kind of casual conversation, as opposed to delivering, the State of the Union address.
You like Ike, I like Ike, everybody likes Ike.
By the time Dwight Eisenhower decided to run for president in 1952, his Republican backers convinced Ike to try his hand at this new medium of television.
Eisenhower Answers America.
He agreed to participate in this campaign called Eisenhower Answers America. And they're completely staged. But he went into a studio and off of cue cards, he read these answers to Americans' questions.
What party put prices up?
And then days later, the advertising agency picked up people who were waiting in line for tickets at Radio City Music Hall brought them in and had them read from cue cards the questions. And then the questions and the answers are cut together.
General, the Democrats are telling me I never had it so good. Can that be true when America is billions in debt? When prices have doubled? When taxes break our backs?
And Eisenhower says, no, and it's time for a change.
And it's time for a change.
Crude, but effective. He won.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
And would become the first president to hold a televised press conference.
Well, I see we're trying a new experiment this morning. I hope it doesn't prove to be a disturbing influence. I have no announcements. We'll go directly to questions. Good evening.
The first televised presidential debate, meanwhile, showed Richard Nixon slightly ill at ease with a glistening upper lip. Television viewers and ultimately the voters watched and picked John F. Kennedy. He was the first president to master that medium.
Could you tell us generally your feelings about your press conferences today and your feelings about how they're conducted?
Well, you're subject me to some abuse, but not to any lack of respect, I don't think.
You wanted law and order in this town.
Ronald Reagan, with years of Hollywood experience under his belt, was, if anything, an even more polished performer.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And the other presidents simply provided variations on a theme. The Carter grin that reminded folks of his humble origins as a peanut farmer. Bill Clinton's tentative nibble of the lower lip, that slightly querulous voice.
These allegations are false.
These were simply adaptive techniques to a familiar medium. It wasn't until Donald Trump that we witnessed the end of an era, when television anchors and correspondents who once served as gatekeepers between politicians and their public were simply brushed aside. He and I spoke on the day he was nominated.
Between Facebook and Twitter, I have over 20 million people, and that's a big audience. And it's also you and the media and everybody's watching.
It allows you to circumvent.
It allows me to get across a point very quickly in seconds. I mean, there was never anything like that. And that gives me a big, big base in terms of a campaign. In terms of a presidency, I don't think I'd use it very much at all.
Clearly, he changed his mind. Never have presidential thumbs communicated so much to so many with such direct impact. Trump doesn't need the intervention of the media giants. The tweets generate so much interest and attention.
President Trump retweeting last night an attack on Dr. Anthony Fauci.
That the networks and cable channels and newspapers are all but powerless to dismiss them or him. And the dirty little secret is that while Donald J. Trump has done everything he can to wreck the profession of journalism,
They are truly an enemy of the people. The fake news, enemy of the people. They really are. They are so bad.
He's been very, very good for the business. More than any predecessor, President Trump sets the agenda for what we read, what we hear.
Recipe. Trump doesn't bash anybody until they hit him. And if they or anyone hits him, then look out.
And what we watch.
He posted 30 times on Twitter on Sunday alone.
You may love him or loathe him, but just try to ignore him.
Jeff, you make smart choices, but you're getting burned.
Huh?
By your bank. With the Marcus by Goldman Sachs online savings account, you could earn more interest in 1 month than in 1 year with the largest banks.
I am getting burned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to do something about this.
Probably should.
You could earn more interest in 1 month than in 1 year with the largest banks. You can money with Marcus by Goldman Sachs.
Managing type 2 diabetes? Dimitri's on it.
eating right and getting those steps in?
On it.
Dimitri thinks he's doing all he can to manage his type 2 diabetes and heart disease. But is his treatment doing enough to lower his heart risk?
Sorry.
Maybe not. Jardiance can reduce the risk of cardiovascular death for adults who also have known heart disease. So it could help save your life from a heart attack or stroke. And it lowers A1C.
Jardiance can cause serious side effects, including dehydration, genital yeast or urinary tract infections, and sudden kidney problems. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that may be fatal. A rare but life-threatening bacterial infection in the skin of the perineum could occur. Stop taking Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have symptoms of this bacterial infection, ketoacidosis, or an allergic reaction. And don't take it if you're on dialysis or have severe kidney problems. Taking Jardiance with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar.
Lower A1C and lower risk of a fatal heart attack?
On it. With Jardiance.
Ask your doctor about Jardiance.
This is Noggin, the interactive learning app from Nick Jr. Now my kids' love of learning.
Great job!
Is through the roof.
With learning games, books, and videos added weekly. For a limited time only. Go to noggin.com to get a 60-day free trial.
We all should be subject to the same justice. If it doesn't work that way, then it's over. We're done.
Do you want me to talk?
Yes.
I was asserting privilege.
What privilege?
I can't say. It's privileged.
If you can't see us, hear us on our podcast, sponsored by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Time for some reflections on Mother's Day. On this Mother's Day, from Faith Saley.
This is a strange Mother's Day. For millions of us, there'll be no special brunches, no visits to extended family. We'll be home. We'll be home because there are brave, essential workers in our world, saving lives, delivering packages, checking out our groceries. They are masked superheroes. There's also another kind of essential worker in many homes with kids, mom. Right now, in addition to everything else she used to be, she's teacher, cook, arts and crafts guru, hand-washing czar. And on top of that, she's still mom. The one who hugs you, the one to cry to, who scratches your back and worries about you. I think of all the moms I know getting up each day knowing it will be basically the same as yesterday, but nevertheless scheming ways to inject joy into their kids' lives. The impromptu dance party, the thumbs up to living rooms being turned into obstacle courses, pancakes for dinner, PJs for school. I think about the text chains I'm on. Moms checking in with each other, sharing home learning fails, such as this, in which my kindergartner wrote her favorite food. Crepe, obviously. Our children's lives contracted unfathomably fast. And while our kids may feel virtually connected to the outside, it's parents who are truly providing their world. It's a lot. It's a challenge. It's a gift. Did I mention this is hard? I'm no hero. A lot of us consider the day a win if we don't yell at the kids and remember to change our leggings.
One more.
If we make our kids laugh, just keep the world spinning. Here in New York, we have the 7 p.m. clap. We lean out our apartment windows and bang on pots and pans and cheer for essential workers. Today, a standing ovation for moms everywhere. Essential workers of the soul.
No one ever thought a couple of months ago that they would be in line to pick up food from local food banks because they didn't have enough money to buy groceries for their families. 2 weekends ago, Jersey Mike's had a special Saturday and Sunday to raise funds for Feeding America. Because of you and communities across the country, we raised enough to serve over 21 million meals for those in need. Raising up together, we always make a difference. Thanks to all of you.
Needles, essential for the sea urchin, but maybe not for people with rheumatoid arthritis, because there are options, like an injection. Xeljanz XR, a once-daily pill for adults with moderate to severe RA for whom methotrexate did not work well enough. Xeljanz XR can reduce pain, swelling, and further joint damage, even without methotrexate. Xeljanz can lower your ability to fight infections like TB. Don't start Xeljanz if you have an infection. Taking a higher than recommended dose of Xeljanz for RA can increase risk of death. Serious, sometimes fatal infections, cancers, including lymphoma, and blood clots have happened, as have tears in the stomach or intestines. infections, serious allergic reactions, and changes in lab results. Tell your doctor if you've been somewhere fungal infections are common, or if you've had TB, hepatitis B or C, or are prone to infections. Needles, fine for some. But for you, 1 pill a day may provide symptom relief. Ask your doctor about Xeljanz XR, an injection.
I am determined to destroy him. Isn't that cute? We have to win. The game is over, man. Game's not over. Not by a mile. I know how to work this. This is the one. Click, click, boom.
Over time, you go noseblind to the odors in your home, but others smell this. That's why Febreze Plug has 2 alternating scents, and it eliminates odors for 1,200 hours.
Meet the world's first self-winding string trimmer, the Ego Power Plus string trimmer with power load technology. Feed the line, push the button, and get back to work. The Ego Power Plus string trimmer with power load technology, exclusively at Ego authorized dealers.
This scientist warned 60 Minutes 17 years ago about a deadly global virus.
We're going to miss the next emerging disease.
What is he saying now? Tonight on CBS.
We leave you this Sunday morning with a return visit to the Keukenhof Tulip Gardens near Amsterdam. I'm Jane Pauley. Happy Mother's Day. Please stay safe and join us when our trumpet sounds again next Sunday morning.
CBS News. Original reporting.
Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. Tonight on the CBS Sunday Night Movies.
Heroes walk this canyon. The greatest of them. Soldiers, astronauts, icons that have shaped this world. Its walls have rung with the roar of appreciation and the thunder of admiration since the birth of New York. And now there are new heroes to celebrate, who stood by us, who stood with us, who held our hands, often for our last breaths. And because of them, this canyon of heroes has been extended all through the city and beyond. And even though ticker tape might not be falling, and even though currently the windows are still closed, the thunder can be heard. And will be for generations to come.
CBSN New York is streaming local news 24/7. Check it out.
I'm Margaret Brennan in Washington, and this week on Face the Nation, the grim march to reopen the country continues as unemployment soars to levels unseen since the Great Depression. The jobs numbers for April are abysmal. 20.5 million people lost their jobs last month. 33 million have filed for unemployment in just the last 6 weeks. 1 in 7 working Americans are out of a job. Will the president push for more federal aid to help those who are struggling?
Well, we're in no rush. We're in no rush.
The COVID-19 numbers are staggering too. There are now 4 million confirmed cases worldwide, more than 1.3 million just in the U.S., where the death toll is 78,000 and rising.
As bad as this has been,
It's just the beginning.
Despite the dire warnings from medical experts, the do what I say, not what I do mindset at the White House continues as two staffers with close proximity to the president and vice president test positive for the virus, and 3 top corona task force members quarantine. The CDC recommends Americans wear masks, but that's not enforced at the White House.
Well, I feel about vaccines like I feel about tests. This is going to go away without a vaccine. It's going to go away, and we're not going to see it again, hopefully, after a period of time.
That type of wishful thinking drew a rare rebuke from the president's predecessor. In a reporting obtained by Yahoo News, former President Obama called the response anemic and spotty.
It has been an absolute chaotic disaster when that mindset of what's in it for me and to heck with everybody else, when that mindset is operationalized in our government.
We'll talk with White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett, as well as former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. He's now leading a project to reimagine parts of the economy. Dr. Christopher Murray, director of the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, will share brand new COVID-19 projections with us. And we'll hear from former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb. Finally, with college graduations canceled or going virtual this year, we'll ask the president of the University of Virginia, Jim Ryan, what challenges school officials are facing as they plan for the fall. It's all just ahead on Face the Nation. Welcome to Face the Nation. We begin today with the financial fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. The numbers are brutal. The official unemployment rate jumped more than 10 points, from 4.4% for March to April's 14.7%. CBS News national correspondent Mark Strassman is in Atlanta. Mark?
Good morning, Margaret. If you think about it, 1 month is all it took. 1 month for the best jobs economy in the last 50 years to plummet into worries about a second Great Depression. Hunger is motivating. By 5 a.m. in Connecticut, this grocery giveaway had a line of cars waiting.
We need food. My son-in-law's laid off, my daughter-in-law's laid off, and I'm handicapped.
Nearly 1 in 5 mothers with children under 12 now report their families don't have enough to eat. Today's food lines recall soup lines during the Great Depression.
There is a broader unemployment rate, a rate that encompasses people who may be sidelined because they are not actually looking for work actively, and that rate is nearly 23% unemployment.
That is a Depression-era number. Like hunger marchers in 1932, protesters in 2020 pushed to reclaim their piece of America. You work for us! And its economy in deep freeze. On this Mother's Day weekend, this protest in Olympia, Washington, drew more than 1,000 people. They demanded the governor speed up his reopening plan. Tesla is fed up with California. Let its factory reopen, or the carmaker says it will move to Texas or Nevada. And Florida is reopening salons and barbershops tomorrow.
There was a lot of doomsday predictions for Florida. Those have not borne out.
Maybe not. But last week was Florida's deadliest since its COVID outbreak began. So much about America's economy now rides on the unknown, containing COVID-19, whether the virus resurges later this year, and when people feel safe again. Polls show most Americans expect a full recovery to take at least a year. Some financial analysts argue, count on a decade.
Any hope of what we would like to call a V-shaped recovery, one where you go down sharply and recover sharply, I think that's thrown out the window.
Georgia led the country with its limited reopening. Consumer response has been mixed, and many eligible stores have stayed closed. And in the roughly 2 weeks since the state eased its restrictions, new COVID cases have gone up more than 20%. Margaret?
Mark Strassman, thanks. CBS News senior foreign correspondent Elizabeth Palmer has our report about what's going on in the rest of the world.
Margaret, despite passing that grim milestone of 4 million cases, the overall number of deaths every day is dropping, thanks in part to control measures in New York and, of course, in Europe. But
many countries are in the real thick of the crisis. Like Russia. Yesterday was the anniversary of the end of World War II, but there was little to celebrate. In spite of Moscow's ultra-strict lockdown, Russia reported 10,000 new COVID cases every day last week. In neighboring Belarus, in spite of a serious outbreak, President Lukashenko remains in COVID denial. He's called it a psychosis and welcomed huge crowds to his country's Victory Day ceremony on Saturday. There were crowds in Brasilia, too, demonstrating in support of the world's other great COVID denier, President Jair Bolsonaro, who still refuses to social distance. Though Rio's famous Christ the Redeemer statue wearing a mask shows he's out of step with local officials fighting to control the outbreak. South Korea has opened its baseball season with masked cheerleaders performing in empty stadiums. Strict measures early on here had almost eliminated COVID, but President Moon Jae-in warned today it isn't over until it's over, after nightclubs in Seoul had to close abruptly when there was a fresh outbreak. Now it's the developing world that's being closely watched by public health experts. In Africa and Southeast Asia, the virus appears to be spreading more slowly, maybe because the population tends, on average, to be young. But no one is sure, and it might well be that the worst is yet to come. Here in Britain, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is due to go on television tonight to explain how we get out of our lockdown. And there is some speculation that the roadmap will include a 2-week quarantine period, Margaret, for anyone arriving on these shores.
Elizabeth Palmer, thank you. Kevin Hassett is a White House economic advisor, and he joins us this morning. Good morning to you, Kevin.
Good morning.
You called this one of the worst jobs reports ever. We know that this has hit Hispanic and African-American population exceptionally hard, and that these numbers we're seeing likely don't reflect the real pain out there. Where is the bottom to this?
Well, you were exactly right to emphasize that the African-American community and the Hispanic-American community have been hit especially hard by this jobs report, with both of those communities, which were really experiencing record low unemployment rates even in January, seeing massive, massive increases in unemployment. Right now, looking across the U.S., there are more than 30 million people that are getting initial claims for unemployment insurance, and that's the biggest negative shock to the jobs market that we've seen since World War II. To get unemployment rates like the ones that we're about to see, to get back to your question, which I think will climb up towards 20% by next month, you have to really go back to the Great Depression to see that. Now, there are a lot of economic differences between right now and the Great Depression. Here, we understand why the economy is slowing down, and we expect that we can reverse it. Whereas in the Depression, there were a lot of other things and a lot of policy errors and so on that made the whole thing drag out. And so I think if you look at the Congressional Budget Office, they currently forecast that the second half of the year will be one of recovery. God willing, that's what's going to happen. And I think that that's the view that's pretty much shared by the White House. And so I think you could expect to see jobs probably trough, in May or June.
May or June would be the low point for unemployment. At what rate?
That's about what we expect, yeah. I'm looking for rates north of 20, sadly.
North of 20.
Part of this is not really science as much as just arithmetic.
Right. After the financial crisis, it took a decade to get back to employment levels prior to that. You said on Friday that when it comes to this crisis, there's kind of a silver lining in the jobs report that you saw, because you said almost everybody accounted for the increase in unemployment said they expect to go back to work within 6 months. I'm sure they hope to, but isn't that just wishful thinking at this point? You don't know that.
Right. Yeah, nobody knows it, and it's very unsatisfying. Just like none of us really know, when the virus is going to be either treatable or there'll be a vaccine, or it'll be gone. In which case, we could really just go back to our lives. But the fact is that if you think about the things that would happen that would make it hard to turn on the economy, that's like bankruptcies and business failures and so on. And we've built a bridge to the other side by having these small business loans called the PPP loans, by having a Main Street lending facility so that the Fed is making cash available to big businesses too. And the idea is to try to keep firms up and running, or maybe not running, but up and connected with their workers so that when we turn the switch back on, they can get going right away. Now, again, nobody knows for sure whether it's going to work exactly that way, but the Congressional Budget Office, that's their median expectation right now.
If you look at the reality for the people who are getting hit the hardest right now, Brookings says 1 in every 5 U.S. children are going hungry. What responsibility does the White House have to respond to that? Don't you need to look at doing things like increasing the amount of money available for food stamps?
Right. We need to look at everything. We've mailed very large checks to like more than 180 million families.
Are you going to have to do that again?
And you're right to emphasize the schools. So many children get 2 meals a day at school. We've got schools within a few miles of my house here in D.C. where we're really without the school meals. A lot of the kids that go to those schools, the principal tells me, would go hungry. And right now our schools are closed. And those kids who aren't going to school, by the way, many of them don't have internet, so they're not connected to society. It's a terrible tragedy, and we're looking at everything we can do to help with that. And so the White House has an Opportunity Council that's putting together a major proposal that we expect is going to be part of whatever happens in the Phase 4 deal to fill in the gaps that we're noticing as we watch the data. But absolutely, there's a lot that needs to be done, especially for the most disadvantaged.
So you just referenced a Phase 4 deal. Larry Kudlow, one of the White House advisors, said this week that you're putting off any talks about more emergency rescue packages until maybe even June. Why do you think you can wait that long?
Well, here's what we are doing, okay? We've done this, maybe counting the Fed numbers up to about $9 trillion worth of actions. And now what we're doing is, and the states around the country, are starting to turn their economies back on. And so what we're doing is we're watching very closely what happens. Do those states get their economies up relatively quickly? Does the opening of the state lead to a new outbreak of the disease? We've built a bridge that pretty much, lasts for quite a bit of time right now with that $9 trillion. And then the question really becomes, is Phase 4 really going to be extending the bridge because we're not there yet? Or is it going to be focused on growth and making sure that now that we're on the other side, that we have a healthy economy again? And so right now what we're doing is basically building a plan for either scenario, and we're going to be ready to act as soon as we need to. But I think that right now we have bought some time with all the money that we've thrown at the economy, and we've been using the time to do things like develop treatments, improve our treatments, learn more about social distancing and so on.
But companies and employers need to know what to do to safely reopen. The White House is testing staff regularly. Is that what you're advising America's businesses to do? When will the CDC release specific guidance?
I'm not a doctor. I'm just an economist, and I could tell you.
Well, neither are these CEOs. That's why they're asking for the CDC to provide guidance.
Yeah, no, that's right. But I'm going to say that, of course, we need to ramp up testing. That's something that the president has heavily emphasized. And just last week, we had one day where there were 300,000 tests. And then there's a new test approved that'll hopefully increase that by an order of magnitude. But you're absolutely right that testing is a key component of it. But even testing doesn't remove all risks. And so the interesting or sad thing about my dear colleague who was stricken with the coronavirus this week is that we were getting tested because we're close to the president every day. And even with that, she tested negative one day and then positive the next day, and she's going to work in a community where people are being tested. And so this is a very, very scary virus, that people are going to go back to work and they're going to be worried about things. And it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal, absolutely. But what we can do is we maximize the chance that happens quickly by making lots of testing available. And that's why we focus so much energy on that.
I didn't hear a date on when that CDC guidance is going to be released. But when it comes to your work environment, you just described, do you wear a mask? Are you going to continue to show up for work at the White House?
I've got a mask right here. And the fact is that I practice aggressive social distancing. I'll wear a mask when I feel it's necessary. It is scary to go to work. I was not part of the White House in March. I think that I'd be a lot safer if I was sitting at home than I would be going to the West Wing. But, it's a time when people have to step up and serve their country. And if I think about the amazing accomplishments of the team that we put together that's been down in the basement of the White House, getting data from all over the government to help us decide how to solve the ventilator problem and the PP&E problem and everything. But I think everybody knows that going to work, you've been in the West Wing, it's a small, crowded place. It's a little bit risky, but you have to do it because you have to serve your country. And there are a lot of things that you can't do except there. Like if you're going to have secure communications, you need to be in the situation room.
Kevin Hassett, thank you for your time. We'll be back in 1 minute with some new coronavirus projections.
Our communities need help like never before. And Wells Fargo employees are assisting millions of customers across America through fee waivers and payment deferrals. Helping people stay in their homes through mortgage payment relief efforts. And donating $175 million to help hundreds of local organizations provide food and other critical needs. When you need us, Wells Fargo is here to help.
One of the national death toll models that the White House is watching closely is from the University of Washington's Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation. You've often heard it referred to as IHME. And they have some brand new projections out this morning. Institute Director Dr. Christopher Murray is in Seattle, and he joins us. Good morning.
Good morning.
What is your model showing you today?
So our projections through till August 4th are up. We're up to 137,000 deaths that we expect to see. And that's the effect of two things going in opposite directions. Some goodish news coming out of New York and New Jersey and Michigan, where the death cases and death numbers are coming down faster than expected. Some other states where cases and deaths are going up more than we expected. Illinois, and then Arizona, Florida, California as examples of that. And so it's the balancing of those that is driving our numbers. And then, of course, we're seeing just explosive increases in mobility in a number of states that we expect will translate into more cases and deaths, in 10 days from now.
This is today the second time in about a week that you've raised these projections. What's driving the change?
Well, what's driving the change is, simply put, the rise in mobility. And that's the key driver. We're seeing in some states, a 20 percentage point increase in just 10 days in mobility. And that will translate into more human contact, more transmission. And then the other thing that we're seeing in some states is, which is why we like to revise the forecasts on a very regular basis, is that we're just seeing more cases and deaths than expected in certain places. But it's mostly mobility that's driving up the numbers.
And you are looking at mobility through tracking cell phone data. Is this mobility because of loosened restrictions, or is it just quarantine fatigue and people are going out and about more than they should?
I think it is a bit of both. We're seeing increases in mobility even in anticipation of the relaxation of social distancing, but there's definitely a correlation. The places that are taking off the social distancing mandates, the bump in mobility appears to be larger. So somewhere like Georgia, which was one of the first, we're seeing it's in that category of a pretty big increase. So it's definitely a mixture of both, we believe.
We spoke just before you with one of the White House economic advisors who said one of the reasons they're waiting on more emergency financial aid is because they want to see what happens in the states as they pull back restrictions and whether that leads to a new outbreak of the disease, as Kevin Hassett put it. Do you have any indication that that is happening?
Well, I think that the big challenge here is that when we model the relationship between mobility and transmission, most of the data that's informing that is coming from when people reduced their mobility and we saw a reduction in transmission, namely social distancing works. Now that we're coming out, the big question mark is, will people's own behavior, acting responsibly, wearing a mask, avoiding coming into physical close contact, will that be enough to counteract the effects of rising mobility? And so we really are going to have to wait and see. Our suspicion is that there will be about 10 days from now in these places that have had these big increases in mobility, we are expecting to see a jump in cases.
And what places? What are the potential hotspots in the next 10 days?
Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, the big increases in mobility, there's 5 states at the top. Some of those have had modest epidemics so far, so they may not be huge numbers. But, the top 5 in terms of increasing mobility are Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Georgia. But there's another 10 states or more where there's being a 10 to 15 percentage point increase in mobility. So pretty diverse. So we may see quite a lot of states tipping towards increasing cases in the next 2 weeks.
Would you advise Americans to travel? The Treasury Secretary was on another network this week, and he said it is a great time for people to explore America. Would you advise them to do that?
I would give people advice. I tend to practice what I preach, and so we're not traveling, my family and I, and have no intention of traveling. And I think it's all part of trying to think about a route back to work and school, and that entails, trying to minimize exposure and, close physical contact. Hard to do if you're traveling. So personal advice would be, protect yourselves, wear a mask, and try to minimize interactions with others.
What does the data tell you about how effective wearing a mask actually is?
That's one of the big question marks. We know that the medical masks are highly effective and also very not available, nor is it likely that people are going to feel comfortable wearing medical masks. And so the big question is the effectiveness of cloth masks. We believe they are effective. Just how effective is the subject of a lot of research and discussion. And I think, we just don't have an exact number on it. It's one of these factors that we're going to have to wait and watch and see what happens. The good news is that there's more and more data coming in on who's wearing a face mask. And we may be able to figure out from what's happening community by community across the U.S. whether those places that are wearing masks more are seeing less transmission. And so, again, more data will teach us more.
We will be watching for that. Thank you, Dr. Murray, for that. We'll be back in a moment with a lot more Face the Nation.
Four plus 1 is 16.
How many pints of iced tea are left in the pitcher?
I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair. I'll get down the stairs.
You want to show us the confidence of the now? It's not going good. My mom is getting stressed out.
Mom is tired.
So starting just quickly by breathing in. I never thought I'd say this, but I kind of miss school.
Teachers, y'all the gift of people. I thank you so much for what you're doing.
Their investment into our children is beyond what we can even imagine. Appreciate all that you do.
Big special shout out to all the essential workers out there.
I want to say thank you to my sister Joy, who's a registered nurse.
Thank you to my brother Eric, who's a firefighter and a paramedic.
Thank you so much, Liz. I love you.
Thank you to all the heroes providing care to the ones in need. Dhanyawad.
For all you do, Shelley. Thanks.
Thank you.
The Justice Department dropped charges Thursday against President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, who twice pled guilty to lying to the FBI about conversations he had with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. Attorney General William Barr said the FBI did not have a basis for the investigation.
Right now, there's over 1 million Walmart associates doing their best to keep our nation going while keeping us safe. We've given masks to all our people, and we're helping our customers practice social distancing in stores. We've implemented shorter hours so we can sanitize our stores from top to bottom while also restocking our products. But if anything, these days have reminded us why we do what we do. Because despite everything that's changed, one thing hasn't, and that's our devotion to you and our communities. We're working together, in store and online, through pickup and delivery, to make sure you can still get the essentials you need. And as we move forward, know that our first priority will always be to keep you and our associates safe.
We'll be right back with former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former Chairman and CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt, and University of Virginia President Jim Ryan.
Amazon says they have new plans to help their workforce stay safe during the pandemic. Are they enough?
COVID cases keep popping up. Now, why do you think that is?
Tonight.
Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. Tonight on the CBS Sunday Night Movies.
Heroes walk this canyon, the greatest of them. Soldiers, astronauts, icons that have shaped this world. Its walls have rung with the roar of appreciation and the thunder of admiration since the birth of New York. And now there are new heroes to celebrate, who stood by us, who stood with us, who held our hands, often for our last breaths. And because of them, this canyon of heroes has been extended all through the city and beyond. And even though ticker tape might not be falling, and even though currently the windows are still closed, the thunder can be heard. And will be for generations to come.
CBS 2 celebrates Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Welcome back to Face the Nation. We go now to Westport, Connecticut, and former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb. Good to have you back with us.
Thank you.
We heard from the FDA that they have given emergency use authorization for the first antigen test to discover COVID-19. So that's any substance that causes your immune system to produce antibodies against it. How significant is this authorization? How will this work?
Well, I think this kind of technology is a real game changer, and this test was authorized by the FDA under the leadership of Jeff Shuren, who runs that device center, in 24 hours from receiving the application. What it is, it's a very rapid test that can be used in a doctor's office. Doctors now have about 40,000 of these Sophia machines already installed in their offices, and you do a simple nasal swab, and the test itself scans for the antigens that the virus produces. The test is about 85% sensitive, so let's say 100 people come into a doctor's office who have COVID-19. 85 of them are going to be able to be tested positive with this test very quickly. It's a cheap test. It'll probably be about $5 a test, and you can get a result within 5 minutes. For the other 15, the doctors are going to have an index of suspicion that the patient may have COVID-19 and send off one of the PCR-based tests, which take about 24 hours to get the result back. But for those 85 patients that you could screen out right away, you're getting a very fast result, and you can start to take action immediately. The company itself said that they're going to be able to produce about 200,000 of these tests starting right away. But in several weeks, they'll be able to produce up to 1.5 million a week. So this dramatically expands our testing capacity as long as doctors are able to run these tests in their offices.
As long as they can run them. How different is this kind of testing from what we've heard so much about, where states are struggling to get capacity and they're looking for, reagents and cotton swabs? Does this solve those challenges?
Well, it helps solve the challenges. I mean, every test paradigm is a little bit different, has pros and cons. The PCR-based tests where the states have struggled to get the testing supplies, those are more accurate, but they also take more time and they cost more to perform. The reimbursement's about $100. Maybe if you do that at scale, you can get the cost down to $50. There's point-of-care based systems like the Abbott machine that the White House is using, or the Gene Expert, which is very reliable. Those take a little longer to get a result. Their sensitivity isn't as good as the PCR-based machines, with the exception of the Gene Expert, which is very accurate. These antigen-based tests aren't as reliable, meaning they're not as sensitive, so they're going to miss some patients who have COVID. But in the hands of a doctor who already has a high index of suspicion that the patient may have the disease, and if they get a negative test and they still think the patient may be infected, they'll send off a PCR-based test. They allow you to dramatically expand testing, and they're very cheap, they're very easy to perform. And again, most doctors have these machines already in their offices. They're using them for strep throat and flu. The challenge is going to be what the guidance is from the CDC and public health agencies about how doctors test in their offices. If turning over a positive case in your medical office means that you have to do a deep cleaning and quarantine your nursing staff and close your office, doctors aren't going to be testing, and that would be unfortunate because there's a big installed base of these tests already in place. So CDC has to come out with flexible guidelines on how doctors can protect their offices and protect their staff and also be testing in the community, because if we can't do that, then we're not going to have access to testing. The challenge won't be the platforms. There'll be plenty of capacity to perform tests. The challenge will become, where can you go get the test?
You said this could be more accurate than the testing system the White House is currently using. Let me ask you about these aides who have been testing positive at the White House. Our top 3 medical officials in the U.S. government are now in self-quarantine because of possible exposure. They work in a White House that's a fortress, but the virus has still made it inside. I want to play for you what President Trump said this week when he revealed one of Vice President Pence's aides tested positive.
She tested positive out of the blue. This is why the whole concept of tests aren't necessarily great. The tests are perfect, but something can happen between a test where it's good and then something happens and all of a sudden she was tested very recently and tested negative. And then today, I guess, for some reason, she tested positive.
The president seems to be doubting the value of testing in the workplace. What's your view?
Well, look, I think testing has value in a workplace, especially when you're dealing with places where there's people who are at higher risk of getting infected. So you think about people who work on a shop floor, in a grocery store. The antigen-based test that we're talking about here that was just approved is actually less sensitive than the machine that the White House is using. They're using an Abbott platform. But that platform also has false negatives, meaning that sometimes people are going to have the virus, but the test is going to say they don't. There's machines that are more accurate than that Abbott machine, like the Gene Expert. They take a little longer to perform the test. The reason why the White House prefers the Abbott machine is it gives a result in 5 to 15 minutes. Gene Expert takes about 45 minutes. And so I think that's why they prefer that platform. But this is why we need to have testing out in the community. This is why we need very accurate tests if we're going to be testing asymptomatic people. In the setting of a doctor's office where someone is symptomatic, using a test that doesn't have very high sensitivity might be okay because the doctor's going to run a confirmatory test anyway. But in the setting of where you're testing people who are asymptomatic, as the White House is doing, and you're trying to catch those people who don't have any symptoms, you want a very sensitive test for that kind of a purpose. And that's what we should be using out in the employment setting as well.
We've talked a lot about remdesivir. We interviewed the CEO of the company that makes that drug last week. He told us at that time the government would be deciding who the drug gets to and where. The rollout this week was pretty chaotic. Yesterday, HHS revealed its new plan for distribution. What does this indicate to you about how things will work in the future with other drugs or potentially a vaccine?
Well, look, I think we need to get a better system in place. If the government's going to take control of the supply of these kinds of therapeutics, and they don't necessarily have to do that, they chose to do that, they need to have a good system in place for allocation. Here, in this case, Gilead gave 500,000 doses to the federal government. They distributed initially about 4,000 in New York City, which is a city that I'm familiar with. I think they should have been trying to push out as many doses as fast as possible because more supply is coming into the market. There's no reason to hoard it or hold on to it. And so hopefully when they start to contemplate the next therapeutic, and there will be more therapeutics in the fall, or a vaccine and how they allocate that, they're going to have a better system in place based on clinical need.
All right. Thank you very much for your insight, Dr. Gottlieb. We'll be right back with a look at how some businesses may be looking a little different in the near future.
We could never do what they do, but what we can do is be a partner that never quits. Verizon is the most reliable network in America, built for interoperability and puts first responders first, giving their calls priority 24/7. We do what we do best, so they can too.
I know that every single time that I suit up, there is a chance that that's the last time. So that every single time that I suit up, there is a chance that that's the last time.
That's where I feel.
I might be crazy, but I'm not stupid. Captain Annuity tells me that I am protected.
During turbulent times, consider protected lifetime income from an annuity as part of your retirement plan. This can help cover your essential monthly expenses. Learn more at protectedincome.org. This can help cover your essential monthly expenses. Learn more at protectedincome.org.
Children is beyond what we can even imagine. Appreciate all that you do. To our children is beyond what we can even imagine. Appreciate all that you do.
We want to go now to the former CEO of Google, Eric Schmidt. He is leading a New York commission to reimagine sectors of the economy in light of the coronavirus pandemic. He joins us from Miami this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We just heard from one of the White House economic advisors that the worst is yet to come on the unemployment front. What jobs, in your view, will continue to exist?
Well, a lot will, but they'll operate in different ways. We're going to have to reimagine how the workplace works. We're going to have to figure out how to get people into buildings that they're fearful of. My guess is we'll have more demand for office space, not less, because people will want social distancing. We're going to have to think about hub and spoke systems where local people don't travel so far because they don't want to be on public transit for so long. So we're going to have to really rethink how businesses operate. They need their employees back.
After 9/11, in Manhattan, you saw people establish homes outside the city. You saw businesses move and have backup facilities outside of major cities. Is there something that we know is in the works this time around?
You can be sure that something like that will happen. If you think of it as an employer, you have a bunch of employees, some of whom are dying to get back to the office, and some people who are afraid that if they go to the office, they will die. They're very concerned about their immunocompromised or what have you. So they're going to have to come up with flexible arrangements. So imagine that there are 3 or 4 people. One will go to the office, one will stay home, some will go to some local or near their town working environment. It will change the pattern. We've had this situation where people move to super cities in these incredibly concentrated ways. That will change in the next few years. You don't need to be in the super city in order to participate in the excitement of these super cities. The commission, by the way, is intending to work not just on the city, but also suburban and all the rural folks. We have to be sensitive to the fact that everybody has problems, everyone has concerns, and they're very different situations.
You know, corporations are being forced to try to do things in a different way right now, but many of them may use this as an excuse or as an accelerant to make some big strategic shifts. What does the economy look like on the other side of it? What does that mean?
One way to think about this is that this 1 month, 2 months period has brought forth 10 years of forward change. So all of a sudden, the internet is no longer optional. It's fundamental to doing business, to operate, to live our lives. All sorts of much higher expectations as a result. For example, we need much better broadband in the rural areas. Another example would be telehealth. 80% of the visits to doctors are right now on telehealth. People have been wanting this to happen for years. Now, using remote monitoring, we can actually measure everybody and do it remotely. And then only if you have to, you go in to see the doctor. And by the way, that's more convenient for you as a patient. There are all sorts of examples. Another thing that we'll have to do is we'll have to have all sorts of interesting sort of social monitoring of one kind or another to look for these hotspots. So systems will have to be developed to see, oh my God, there's an outbreak over there. Let's get to it right now before the spread begins.
But one of the things that this crisis has also made obvious is not just income disparity, but access to internet, as you just said. If someone doesn't have access to broadband or they don't have the computer, how do you make up for that difference? Who pays for that?
Well, we have to solve that problem. And when the government does another one of these huge stimulus bills, let's put some stimulus into broadband access, especially for rural areas. The cities are in pretty good shape. And let's figure out a way for people who don't otherwise have access to computers through libraries or whatever, find a way for them to get access. Many people can access through their mobile phones. That's another solution. You can't participate in this new economy without access to the internet. It's how you're going to learn. It's how you're going to deliver services. It's how you're going to market. By the way, it's how you're going to sell. Right? So salespeople won't be traveling as much. They're going to be doing it with the equivalent of Zoom and other services like that.
But it's not just, you're talking about federal funding to build out infrastructure like Wi-Fi, but what we've learned because of some of these backlogs in unemployment claims with the states is that their basic infrastructure, their computers are so outmoded they can't even process the amount of demand right now. Where does that come from? I mean, you're talking about not just rebuilding, but completely remaking how states function.
What you're learning through this is that the government at the federal and state level have just terrible infrastructure in the software department. They're still using COBOL systems, which is a system I programmed in 45 years ago. And those systems, the programmers are no longer with us. So we've really got to upgrade these systems. And there are much better technologies that are much more secure, much quicker, and so forth. You can see them in the private sector. The public sector has lagged for whatever set of reasons. Because of this will accelerate all of that. If you look forward to it, what you'll do as a citizen is many of your services will be online. Your health will be online. Much of your education will be online. And then there'll be other systems, like we need to figure out a way to de-densify public transportation. People will say, it's better if you get on the subway now because it's less crowded, right? Because you don't want to be on a subway when it's full of everybody. These kinds of changes are easy for computer systems to do if they're in place.
The Wall Street Journal is reporting this morning that the Trump administration's in talks with Intel and some other companies to move facilities back to the United States, to have manufacturing be here. Do you see that change in the global supply chain happening?
Well, we've built in the last 10 or 20 years this extraordinarily efficient global supply chain with many, many steps. We've now learned that it's not resilient. There has been for at least a decade a great concern about our over-reliance on Taiwan in particular, but foreign chip manufacturing. And there is an initiative within the government, which is very important, that we get domestic supply of foundries, literally the places where chips are made, and companies like Intel and Samsung and TSMC. TSMC is the largest foundry. It's in Taiwan at the 7-nanometer level, trying to get them into our country so we have better control. It's important from a standpoint of our own economics. It's also important for national security. We want to make sure that our critical infrastructure is owned and controlled by America. Right. Never bet against America. We are the innovators in our world. We should be able to do this well.
We'll leave it on that note. Never bet against America. Thank you, Eric Schmidt. We will be back in a moment.
Help us understand, how can it be that you can have the antibodies and not be immune to the coronavirus?
Antibody is not synonymous with immunity. Antibody just tells you that you've been infected before.
We are all still learning so much. Thank you, Tara.
Who will be the greatest of all time? Survivor season finale, Wednesday on CBS.
Calm. Download the free app now.
Attention. This is an alert for anyone taking the prescription drug Elmeron. Studies have linked Elmeron use to blurred or distorted vision, difficulty reading or viewing colors, dark spots, straight lines looking curved or squiggly, vision loss, and blindness. You may have even been diagnosed with macular degeneration or pattern dystrophy. If you took Elmeron and are experiencing any of these vision problems, call us immediately. We're Parker Wakeman. We can help. 1-800-741-8000. 1-800-741-8000.
Washing our hands helps stop the spread of coronavirus. Put your hands under clean running water and soap up. Create a lather. Scrub the backs of your hands, between your fingers, under your fingernails for a full 20 seconds. That's singing the happy birthday song out loud twice. Then rinse your hands thoroughly. Dry them. Use a towel to turn off the water. Text COVID to 692692 for real-time updates or visit nyc.gov/coronavirus.
With CBS All Access, you can watch CBS 2 News, live sports, and all your favorite CBS shows.
I got 2 of my team going up against an army.
Plus, stream original series like Star Trek Picard and Interrogation. Try CBS All Access for free now.
It's graduation season. As students finish high school and college in the next few weeks, the big question that students and parents have is, what will the fall and their future look like? Jim Ryan is the president of the University of Virginia, my alma mater, as well as the alma mater of our executive producer, Mary Hager, and former Face the Nation moderator, John Dickerson. Wahoo wah.
Wahoo wah, Margaret.
So you have not yet canceled all summer courses or the fall semester. How do you make this decision? What are you telling parents right now?
So we are in the midst of trying to figure out how we can have as many students back on grounds in the fall and in classrooms, and to do that safely. And we're working night and day to figure out exactly how to do that, and we'll make an announcement about the fall in mid-June. We're trying to push back as far as we can so we'll have the best information when we make the decision, but we also realize that people need to be able to make plans.
Certainly do. But what do you mean when you say, you're taking into consideration health standards? Do you expect to have to test every student before they come back to grounds?
So, I think in order for us to be able to have students back on grounds and in classrooms, there are a few basic things we're going to need. One is testing capacity. I think we would need to test students when they first arrive and faculty and staff before the students arrive. We're going to need to have the ability to do contact tracing. We're going to need the ability to be able to isolate and quarantine students who have been exposed. And then we're also going to need to enact a bunch of social distancing protocols in terms of how far away students need to be from each other in the classroom or in dining halls. As you can imagine, it's a complicated task. College campuses are a difficult and challenging place for contagious viruses.
What you just described is what mayors and governors tell me they have to do. It sounds like you're planning for basically a city. What is the state telling you? Will all Virginia state schools make the same decision at the same time and do the same thing?
So we are in contact with the Department of Education, and I'm also in close contact with my colleagues at Virginia colleges and universities. And we are all trying to work against the same challenge. And my hope is that there will be a set of guidelines that we can all agree to and all follow. But not all of us are in the same situation as well. Some of us have smaller campuses than others. Some are more local than others. So I think we're all following the same principles and all guided by concerns around public health. But because circumstances differ from campus to campus, some might be able to open sooner rather than others. Some may be able to have more students back than others.
UVA has a relatively high percentage of out-of-state and international students. As you look at applicants, how are you taking into consideration not just where people are coming from, but how many people to accept at the university?
Yeah, so international students are a particular challenge. A number of them are not likely to be able to be back in time. So one thing that we know for sure is that we will have courses that are online in order to provide an education to students who can't come back to campus. That may be true for students who are out of state or in state who are at high risk as well. But our admission season this year was remarkably strong. We had a higher yield than we did last year, and we fully expect to have a fully enrolled class when fall comes around.
Higher yield, do you mean more acceptances?
I mean, more people have accepted our offers of admission. A higher percentage accepted our offer of admission than last year, which is a little surprising given the uncertainty.
Right. UVA obviously has a strong athletic program on the basketball front, certainly on the football front as well. Those are also revenue streams. What do you know about the athletics season? What is the plan?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're taking it day by day. Obviously, we need to have students back on grounds before football can begin. But our athletic director, Carla Williams, and our head football coach, Bronco Mendenhall, are committed first and foremost to the safety and well-being of their players, our student athletes. And they'll begin practice when the medical experts tell them that it's safe to do so. Our hope, obviously, is that there's a football season this fall. I don't imagine it will look like normal football seasons, just like I don't imagine, even if we have all students back on grounds, it will look like a normal semester. It will not be a normal semester next fall, regardless of which path we follow.
So, the federal government passed this massive package called the CARES Act, and private universities with very substantial endowments like Harvard and Princeton took a lot of public pressure for even applying for any kind of financial help. UVA has an endowment just short of about $10 billion and did take it. How do you explain that?
Well, we accepted the funding because it is helping our students. Half of the funding that we received goes directly to students in need. We created a student hardship fund that we've been using to provide grants for technology, for online learning, for transportation, for living expenses. And those needs are only going to continue throughout the summer and the fall. So half of the funding we received is directly related to providing assistance to our students. Mm-hmm. The other half reimburses us for costs that we incurred, including rebating housing and dining costs. So we're really passing on these savings to our students, and I think that's a good thing to do.
All right, President Ryan, good luck to you and to all the upcoming graduates. We'll be right back with a tribute to mothers.
Right now, there are over 1 million Walmart associates doing their best to keep our nation going. Because despite everything that's changed, one thing hasn't, and that's our devotion to you and our communities. Our priority will always be to keep you and our associates safe while making sure you can still get the essentials you need.
Tom Hanks is Forrest Gump. Tonight on the CBS Sunday Night Movies.
Heroes walk this canyon. The greatest of them. Soldiers, astronauts, icons that have shaped this world. Its walls have rung with the roar of appreciation and the thunder of admiration since the birth of New York. And now there are new heroes to celebrate, who stood by us, who stood with us, who held our hands, often for our last breaths. And because of them, this canyon of heroes has been extended all through the city and beyond. And even though ticker tape might not be falling, and even though currently the windows are still closed, the thunder can be heard. And will be for generations to come.
Today, we honor and celebrate mothers. They continue to go above and beyond, more so today than ever before. Across the country, moms are keeping households afloat, turning kitchen tables into schoolrooms and home offices, and trying to explain to little ones why life as we knew it disappeared. The reality of gender dynamics is being revealed. 75% of mothers with young children are in the workforce. Moms are the primary or sole earners for 40% of those households, according to the Labor Department. This week, we learned that they're losing their jobs at a higher rate than men.
Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is Sunday Morning. Introduced this morning on Yes, Cups and Bowls, thanks to Tim Nicholas Tang of Vancouver. Today is Mother's Day, a Mother's Day under quarantine in many parts of the country. Being cooped up puts stress on moms and on any couple that pledges to stay together for better or for worse, as Tracy Smith will report in our cover story.
The marriage vows say to have and to hold, but they never said anything about doing it 24/7.
I think the biggest thing I realized is that she chews too loudly.
That's true, and Jason sleeps too loudly.
I think I probably get a little perturbed quicker than he does.
The highs and lows of wedlock under lockdown, ahead on Sunday Morning.
Our Sunday profile this morning, Reese Witherspoon, who balances her role as actress and producer with being a mom. She'll be talking with our Rita Braver.
We got married in a fever.
She's not only a huge star.
Did you think you were just going to waltz into my house?
But also a respected producer.